Hey there, folks. On a day, I typically take off this beautiful, what is it, the 9th of April, probably? On this beautiful April 9th, I am so happy to be spending my time with you. But I do, unfortunately, have some bad news. I'm afraid that TJ Kirk will not be joining us today because he said he could never speak on a stream that had less than 500 likes. I know. I talked with him. And I said, really? That seems like such an arbitrary... Like, likes aren't even the best metric to determine the success of a stream. It's viewership. YouTube is weird like that. Ah, there we go. Okay, there we go. Now we've... Okay, you all can stop now. All right, you. How are you all doing? I hope you're doing decently enough. I'm doing great. I had the tastiest coffee, perfect blend, the perfect ratio, the cream, the sugar, the bean juice. It all came together. But let's not waste any more of your time. Let me give him a call. Don't expect blood sports now. You people are insufferable. Now, wait, I'm real patient. Oh. Hello?
Hello.
Hey, can you hear me this time?
Yeah.
Sick. How you doing?
Good. How about you?
Doing pretty okay. Feeling nice and perky, refreshed, energetic. You know how it is.
No, I don't.
Hey, listen, melatonin, just pop 2 of them gummies before going to sleep, works miracles. Changed my life, I tell you.
Oh, okay. I'll be sure to keep that in mind.
How are you? Okay, so wait. No, I don't think anyone in my audience needs to hear this. Soon, kind of, they know, but it's the Amazing Atheist, aka TJ Kirk, aka been on YouTube 8 times as long as I have.
Or anyone else.
Or anyone else, frankly. Back in the 1980s, when they were rolling out test YouTube, he was there. And since then, we've all just kind of come on, followed in his footsteps.
Yeah.
How you been?
All my bastard children. Yeah. Fine, I guess. I don't know. I'm a little nervous. I don't usually come on other people's shows, so.
Yeah, I don't know what your format typically... Well, oh wait, I know what your traditional format is. I don't know, like, if you have a history of coming on other folks. I really appreciate you coming on my stream, by the way. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I don't usually do this, but you seem like an honest actor, so I feel like this is a good place to make an exception.
I try my best, but we all have our moments. I've had my spicy takes now and again, that I've had to pull back from, but I try to do it in good earnest.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you speak. Your streams are quite long, right? I mean, they average like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, usually like 4 to 5. Longer if it's video games.
Right. So, you're bound to say some stupid shit every now and then.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people really underappreciate how difficult it is to not act like a dumb fuck every once in a while when you're broadcasting like a fifth of your life online. Like, just probabilistically, eventually you're going to fuck up somewhere.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you do...
your chat before I did this.
Yeah.
Seemed like you've amassed a pretty intelligent following. I was kind of disconcerted to see how many of them think I'm a right winger, but
I think, I mean, I don't want to engage in apologetics or nothing, but back in I first got into online politics around 2011.
Right.
And back at the time, I mean, you'd still been on YouTube for a long time prior to that. But from that point up until like 2016, I feel like everyone's impression of you was just 100% based on like the very early anti-SJW stuff, and it never really updated as your content did.
Maybe. Very interesting. But I mean, I was on the left even then, so I don't know. Yeah, and then the stream started, and I saw the banana spam start, so I didn't know they were so kink shamey too.
Yeah, well, honestly, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? You don't shame me for the horsecock nonsense, but you'll go ahead and shame. Now that might be YouTube chat. YouTube chat is terrible. Okay?
That is YouTube. yet. But
Yeah. Okay. Fuck YouTube. I don't know what those degenerates are up to.
they seemed pretty bright up until you actually started streaming, and then it kind of flooded with I guess the undesirables.
They're animals, okay? They're freaks. I don't know what's going on in their minds. They're like ghouls that are the clamoring outside the walls of the party we're all having here on the website chat.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, forgive me if I'm a bit nervous, especially at the onset here. But yeah.
No, please. So if I may kick it off, so politically,
Right.
I have heard so many different accounts of your content from so many different people. I feel like I was getting like gaslit half the time. You're a Bernie Sanders supporter, or I guess we're all ex Bernie Sanders supporters now.
I mean, I still support Bernie, but obviously I no longer support his presidential bid. But,
yeah. We're not, or maybe we are running in third ticket. I don't know. We'll get to that. But you're obviously not right leaning. Would you mind, before we talk about it, could you describe to me like how do you feel your content and your opinions have broken off from the perception people tend to have of you in like the broader left leaning community?
I have no idea, honestly. I think that I can be a bit confusing, simply because I'm so scattershot. It kind of boils down to the very essence of my being tends to be sort of chaotic, and a lot of people like to throw out different disorders, mental problems they might have to kind of.
Oh yeah, people are very fond of that. Like any excuse they can get to like medicalize your opinions.
But I am, I do have ADD and stuff, and it's really pretty severe. So I mean, I don't know. I kind of tend to be scatterbrained. I feel like sometimes my mind is sort of like some butter sliding around in a skillet, So I don't know.
I completely sympathize. I just want to say I have ADHD, so it is insanely difficult sometimes trying to like manage, especially in the public face. I completely respect that.
Yeah, I'm kind of all over the place, and I can kind of understand why people get confused about where the fuck I'm at. I don't even really know. You asked me last night in sort of our preliminary little brief chat we had, whether I consider myself a sock dem or a socialist, and I was like, I don't fucking know. And I think a lot of that has to do with like a time scale, because I think that I'm a sock dem in the immediate sense, but then I think I'm a little bit stronger than that in the long run. I guess I have sort of a belief that I don't really get into too much in my videos, but it is something that I kind of have in the back of my mind that, and maybe this might just be the influence of Star Trek or something like that. But I feel like technology will progress to a point where, the way we structure our society is going to radically change just because of that. I don't know if it's going to be a utopia or a dystopia, but I mean, it's going to be something vastly different than what we're living in now.
Yeah, I feel like Gene Roddenberry, for you fucking 14-year-olds in chat, that's the Star Trek man. I feel like he did a really phenomenal job of laying the groundwork for some people's understanding of what a post-capitalist society could be. There's something called capitalist realism, or yeah, that's the term, I think, capitalist realism. Yeah, if it's not that, it sounds very close to it. And it's a theory term, and what it essentially means is that there are certain normalizing traits in our culture that make it difficult for people to imagine a non-capitalist society. Like, I think the classic line is, for some, it is easier to imagine the end of the world than to imagine the end of capitalism. And I thank Star Trek for like pushing back on that.
People love to imagine the end of the world. I mean,
because it's easy.
You don't really see too many depictions of, I guess, a post-capitalist society. And Star Trek is one of the shows that does lay out. I mean, it might be the only show. I'm trying to think of something else. But it's one of the only things that gives any sort of vision of, a society where money is no longer an object and stuff like that. Although I think that's kind of been retconned in some of the newer Star Trek.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, canon begins and ends at the Next Generation Deep Space Nine line, and everything apart from that, as far as I'm concerned, is fluff.
Right. Well, I don't know. I actually kind of enjoyed Picard, but I seem to be.
Oh, I haven't watched it yet. Is it good?
It seems like there's a lot of disagreement on that. But I don't think it definitely betrays some of the elements of Star Trek that I think a lot of the TNG fans probably really appreciated. And it does seem to like kind of walk back a lot of the post-capitalist stuff, because it does seem like there's a lot of like monetary exchanges and stuff going on. It does retcon a lot of the elements of the Federation, I think, so that can be kind of disconcerting. But I do think the narrative is actually pretty good, and I think that a lot of the performers are good. And I thought the overall storyline was not bad. Probably not my favorite show ever, but I thought it was a pretty decent swan song for the character of Jean-Luc Picard overall.
Okay, I mean, because I love Picard. I love Patrick Stewart. So yeah, no, I should check it out. That's my feeling. If I may, yeah, because I was trying to think of like other shows or movies that depict a futurist society in a way similar to that which Star Trek has, but all I can really think of are Blade Runner-esque, like edgy, like cyberpunk, like corporations own this planet and that planet type stuff.
Dystopia, it's really a lot easier for people to envision a dystopia than any sort of utopia. So
yeah, it takes a lot more energy to believe in a utopia. I think a lot of people think that there's like a cynical realism associated with like looking towards the dystopia, but I think it actually takes a lot more strength to envision and to believe in the possibility of a utopia. It means putting your heart on the line a little bit more.
It definitely does. And, I think that's one of the things that was probably the failing of Picard, is it didn't have the guts to envision a utopia. It had to kind of dirty up the Federation a little bit to make it more, I don't know, quote unquote, believable for people. So that's probably the wellspring from which a lot of the criticism of the show comes from. But I do think overall it had a hopeful message. So whatever. You haven't seen it, so I don't want to get too much into that. But
no spoilerinos or nothing. But yeah, no,
another movie that actually had the balls to show a utopian future, albeit pretty briefly and pretty vaguely, was the Bill and Ted series. So.
Oh wait, no, yeah, comrades Bill and Ted, absolutely vanguards of the socialist future. That's actually true. I think it takes a lot of character to even jokingly like think of a utopian society. I think that it's really easy to give into cynicism. And speaking of that, if I may, because
Sure.
I'd love to talk about your perspective on this. Why do you like Bernie Sanders?
I think that when it comes to Bernie Sanders, there's reasons why I like him as a human being, and then there's reasons why I like his politics. So those are kind of separate things. But I don't know, which one are you asking me? Or are you?
I guess I can understand the personal reasons. I'm sure you and I both appreciate like his sincerity. He's got like an authenticity to him. He's been fighting for the same shit for 30 years. That's pretty rare.
I think he's just a good person.
Yeah.
But as far as his politics go, I think that this country, obviously we have, depending on the statistics you look at and the ways the numbers are tabulated, we have like between 30 and 60,000 people who die every year because of lack of health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that's an intolerable state of affairs to me. I can't.
It's disgusting.
I can't fathom looking at that and saying like this is acceptable. So that's one thing. I think that I know so many people who are honest working class people who work hard, who don't get ahead, and they're fed the lie that they will get ahead if they just work hard. So there's I think a lot of that. I think about a lot of them when I hear about Bernie's policies about raising the minimum wage and creating mechanisms where there's paid sick leave, paid vacation time, paid maternity leave. So I think the American worker has gotten a raw deal for an insanely long duration of time. So there's that definitely resonates with me. Even though I've never really worked one of those jobs myself, been fortunate enough to figure something else out. But not everyone, has that benefit.
No, right. Not everyone can become a YouTube.
Right.
Sensation.
So, and I know so many people who, are stuck in those kind of terrible, soul crushing sort of positions and, just not treated fairly. Their concerns are not listened to. I knew an old friend of mine used to work at Borders Books before that went belly up. And she would constantly tell me about the terrible decision-making of the people, on the top, the CEOs who have no idea what it's actually like to work in one of their stores, just throw down these horrible edicts that are bad, not only bad for their employees, but bad for their business overall. And the people who are working there at the stores know these are bad ideas, but they have no voice in the company structure. So I think, Bernie's talk about democratizing the workplace and getting, workers to have a voice within the companies that they work for. That was something that moved me. Free college. I mean, I pretty much liked his whole agenda.
No, he's he's pretty good across the board. There are some things he's advocated for I think I disagree with, but not along ideological lines. More of a fragmented, practical. Is it better to take this approach or that approach kind of thing? I'm not a protectionist. Also,
an example of that, or
I'm sorry.
Could you give me an example?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of rent control as it was proposed by him. I think it kind of gets in the way of a broader goal of the decommodification of housing, and I'm not a protectionist. There were a few other minor things he advocated for, but they pale in the face of like the broader good shit that he's.
But in terms of, overall though, I don't know. I've never seen an American. I imagine I won't see his like again for some time, but maybe.
Oh yeah, true. Oh god. Oh, I've never agreed with a politician as much as Bernie before, and I'm quite a bit to the left of him too. And I'm not exactly like an easily pleasable sort of guy. As an anarchist, I mean, when it comes to the advocacy of politicians, I tend to be a little bit, I guess, particular. But no, I mean, in spite of whatever failings I might have with him, he's a phenomenal candidate. You talked about an interest in the democratization of the workplace. And right. I think that's, to use a technical term, based in epic, because I advocate primarily for market socialism when right. I'm doing my streams as a sort of transitionary step. I think it's really important to promote democracy of the worker before we can make these really substantive, meaningful changes, like really far-reaching stuff, like the abolition of the state, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know where I stand on the whole abolition of the state thing. But I do believe in the democratization of the workplace. So I don't know. If what follows from there is the abolition of the state and that can be viable, I suppose I don't really have a problem with it.
Gotcha. Do you mind if I test you on that then? On the
sure.
on the presuppositional stuff. So when I talk about market socialism, what I'm usually talking about is whether this be done via like incremental policy or if there's some huge cataclysmic paradigm shift, I don't know. But broadly speaking, I like the idea of destroying the boundary between the worker and the owner, the bourgeois and the proletariat, which is fundamentally reaffirmed by the current iteration of property rights. The fact it's possible for a man to own a factory without having ever stepped inside of it or worked a day's labor within it. Right. This is the fundamental imbalance that allows this division to come about. And the division now is larger than it ever has been in all of human history. We're reaching like Egyptian pharaoh level of the imbalance between like slave and pharaoh. Now we have worker and owner. And I think this is a fundamentally toxic, caustic relationship that destroys our democracy because it disproportionately places power in the hands of a very small group of people with different material interests.
Right.
Do you believe then that it would be that a push towards that goal, the implementation of like workplace democracy, would be like this is something we should be fighting for, not just because in the immediate sense it makes workers happier, but because it abolishes these class lines that seem to be the cause of so many problems?
Absolutely.
Fuck yeah. Okay. Nice.
No. Yeah. I mean, look. I in the immediate concern. I do want my immediate concern is more about that former thing. In the pragmatic sense, but if this leads to what you're talking about, I would have absolutely no objection to that. My wife was pretty disenfranchised yesterday when Bernie Sanders dropped out of the race. She was very distraught about it, and she was kind of asking me about the systems that kind of govern our lives, and I kind of described it to her as I was trying to give her some hope and be like, look, we used to live under, feudalism, and now, we're living in a system that's better than that. But then, of course, my stupid ass was like, well, actually, kind of what we live in now is sort of like feudalism with some
like feudalism with extra steps.
Yeah. So, I mean, I shouldn't have said that. I should have just left it there, but I had to go that extra thing. But yeah. So, I mean, when I look at the current state of things as being essentially just feudalism with bells and whistles, it's pretty hard to say that I don't want that ultimately to be dismantled. So.
Gotcha. Fuck yeah. This could be a note of cynicism on my part. It's a traditionally held belief amongst leftists that there's no way to electorally disempower the bourgeois because they control the electoral process. So I'm usually of the opinion that, and this is like the deadline that I argue for all the time. This is like the wall that I hit with my advocacy. I'm generally of the opinion that it's not really possible to vote these huge paradigm shifts into power because they wouldn't let it happen, because they'll use the media, they'll disseminate propaganda, they'll realize capitalism in such a way to discourage people from voting for it, and even if we did vote for it, there would be other obstacles. My thought is that eventually this country, maybe other countries too, are going to collapse, or they're going to experience some radical internal agitation, probably brought about by climate change at this point. I guess that's kind of like the wall we're hitting now. And when that time comes, we're going to have to make a really tough choice about which direction to take our society in, because liberalism won't be viable anymore. It can't really, the profit motive won't be able to guide people in a post-climate apocalypse future. And at that point, we either go socialist, pray God, or we go like fascist, like full ethno-nationalist, close down the borders, gun the climate refugees as they try to climb over the wall, that sort of thing. That's what I fear.
When I look at the general picture of the American psyche, I would I would probably, if I was a betting man, which I am, I would probably say that at least at the current moment, I feel like we're probably more likely to go the fascism route.
Yeah.
But I mean, I always have. I try to hold out some hope for. We just the forces of history are just so tumultuous and unpredictable that I can't. I don't like making predictions. I don't like people who base, who constantly try to throw out predictions and then, I mean, like, it's just, as far as I'm concerned, when someone throws a prediction out there and it comes to pass, it's not because they have some great insight. It's usually just because they fucking got lucky.
Like the chimpanzee throwing darts at the board to pick which stocks, like probabilistically,
They're like the octopus that can pick the winner of every Super Bowl for 6 years running or some shit. It's just like, it's not, the octopus is not fucking doing some kind of great analysis. It's just getting lucky. And I just think there's way too many variables. But I mean, if I was to venture a guess, I would say this country definitely is more comfortable with fascism than, I mean, like, just look at I mean, like, with every disaster that's happened in this country so far, we've seen what the psyche of the American people is. I mean, 9/11 happens, Bush's approval ratings
instantly, Patriot Act, kill
Right.
500,000 Iraqis. Yeah.
I mean, it's just instantaneously like, ooh, strong man. And during this Corona crisis, I mean, we haven't seen quite the same shift to Trump, but I mean, Trump's approval is up, and his approval of the crisis is good, despite the fact that it's terrible.
It's insane.
So I mean, I think that there's something just very hardwired in the American psyche of, like, we need a strong daddy figure to guide us through these tough times. So I would worry that if the effects of climate change did start to, I mean, they already have started. I mean, I live in the state of Louisiana. I mean, I've seen
you up to your ankles yet?
Not quite yet, but I mean, like, people don't realize that the state of Louisiana is not even shaped like it is on the map anymore. I mean, the coastline has degraded to the point where the state doesn't even resemble what's drawn on every map of the state at this point.
I didn't know that. Whew.
Yeah, you should go look up the what Louisiana actually looks like.
I'm glad I live on a hilltop. I'm gonna stay 200 feet above sea level minimum. Whoo boy. I'll take a look at that.
Yeah, you should definitely take a look, because it's mind blowing. So I mean, we're already seeing the effects, and we're seeing all these climate refugees and stuff, and that's obviously sort of helping a lot of these right wing movements in a lot of these countries as well. Because of the fear of the immigrant and stuff. I've lost my train of thought. Where the fuck was I?
I don't know. You started at the base department and you were traveling to the base station. So I think wherever we are is good.
That butter sliding around on the fucking skillet again. That's what's going on.
I completely agree that America is predispositionally oriented towards fascism. We've always fundamentally had kind of the taste in our mouth, at least for as long as the modern conception of a nation state has been around. Even our most, economically progressive president, like Roosevelt, predicated his domestic, security on the concentration, the God, what's the term? The seizure of Japanese Americans in the West Coast. And that's like our high point, you know? Theodore Roosevelt, who was great at trust busting. I mean, he did a huge amount of work curtailing the excesses of corporations, also just destroyed Panama, you know? I feel like we don't have many good people to look up to when it comes to like modeling this country off of.
Yeah, I don't know what it is in the American psyche, because on one hand, I feel like there is a strong anti-authoritarian streak that runs through this country, but it seems like it's something of a projection that doesn't actually exist the moment that it really needs to.
Anti-authoritarian except Patriot Act. You better, by God, salute the flag in elementary school if you don't kneel during the flag at football games, you know? Very conditional, right. The anti-authoritarianism.
Yeah, and it's, you know, I mean, I don't know. The American psyche is a difficult thing to put your finger on, I guess. But I mean, that's why it's kind of hard to predict which direction our country would go if we were faced with a sustained sort of disaster that we had to have a sustained response to, because a lot of times we're just reacting to a fucking momentary crisis. But if there's a sustained crisis, like, you know, climate change has, you know, rendered large swaths of the planet uninhabitable, and there's, you know, the oceans have become too toxic for fish to live in anymore, and, you know, all this other stuff goes down. I don't know how we react to that. I kind of suspect that, you know, it's going to be an ugly reaction.
Yeah, I'm afraid I agree. And things, especially with regards to like mask off fascism, have gotten a lot worse lately. When I so moving, like, jumping topics very slightly, I hate Gamergate. Gamergate was like the origin of my active online reing, and I did, you know. I think that really early on, there were, I mean, you've got a lot of these figures now, like Sargon of Akkad, I guess, or other folks, whatever. And initially, it feels like there was a tendency towards criticizing like the SJW, like the caricature of such a person, which we all have in our heads. We all know what that means, you know, sure. to each of us. And things have transitioned for a lot of people involved in that early on to like open fascism or like open white nationalism in many cases. You kind of started the anti-SJW archetype, but you aren't a fascist. Actually, you're really far from one. What led to that? Because everything I heard about you early on in my life was just like bad. Anti-SJW, hates black people, hates women. I don't know how charitable those takes were initially. I can't imagine they were, but it's clear that you have a different history from a lot of the people who started out that way.
Well, so, you know, I don't know if this is to my credit.
That was a lot I just laid on you. I'm sorry. Just, yeah, go however you like.
Absolutely. So look, I defy anyone to find an anti-SJW video on YouTube that predates "It's Only Sexist When Men Do It," which is a video I made. I don't even remember what year it was. It's a video I'm still proud of. It's a video that I think was widely misinterpreted and continues to be to this day. So I was watching not The View, but one of the View ripoff shows. What was called? I don't remember what it was called.
I know what you mean, though, in my head.
It had Sharon Osbourne and some other people on it. And there was a story about a woman who had chopped her husband's penis off and thrown it in the garbage disposal. And, you know, there was, you know, a great deal of like, oh, that's, yeah, you know, and they're all laughing.
I completely remember that shit. That fucking, whew.
So I was watching that and I was like, you know, I demand consistency here. I mean, like, look, if this is okay, and look, this is where the misinterpretation happens, because people thought I'm saying this shouldn't be allowed. That's not what I was saying. What I was saying was there needs to be a consistent standard. Either it's okay for these girls to laugh about this, but it's equally okay for a bunch of men to laugh about, like, you know, this guy cut his wife's tits off and us to be like, that needs to be okay. Or neither one of those needs to be okay. And we just all need to agree that that's like maybe a little bit too far. You know, so that was kind of the point I tried to make in that video. And that kind of the runaway success of that video and the fucking front page of fucking Reddit and, you know, millions of views.
Oh
and,
no, no, it was it took off like an
right.
earthquake. It rippled
And
across the
so
entire internet.
that was kind of the thing that started the anti-SJW stuff on YouTube. Now, I don't know if it's, I mean, obviously there was people bitching about, you know, political correctness and stuff long before that. So I can't take credit overall, but I think I take credit for popularizing that sort of content on the platform. But, you know, what started to me as sort of a critique of outrage culture has become in and of itself an outrage culture, which is, you know, now you have it to the point where, you know, every artistic decision that, you know, someone in the film is being, you know, loudly screamed about by these man babies who, you know, can't handle fucking diversity in a fucking video game or something.
You know, the minor like black guy shown in episode 3, minute 12, second 47 in doorway frame.
This character is a lesbian. Oh, quit shoving this down my throat. So, I mean, it went from being, when I did it, I feel like it was anti-reactionary. Now I feel like it is reactionary. When I did it, it was against outrage culture. Now I feel like it's another tendril of outrage culture. So
Is that what you mean when you say you felt it was widely misinterpreted, that people used it as a springboard to engage in their own misbehavior rather than...
I don't think it happened quite that quickly, but I think that, you know, it went from being like, hey, don't use this moral cudgel to control art, to and that's what the anti-SJW shit is now. It's a moral cudgel to try to control art. And so it became the exact opposite of what, at least on my part, it was intended to be. So, you know, that's why it's, you know,
Yeah,
I'm not happy. I'm not happy about my role in the history of that. But I mean, I didn't foresee it unfolding that way.
I don't think anyone could have seen foreseen what happened to the internet, like 2011 to 2015. Prior to that point, I think that was a wholly unprecedented, you know, political development. I understand what you're going on about, and I want to say really quickly before I continue, and I think I know the answer, but I just want to clarify. You probably wouldn't consider me an SJW in a derogative sense, would you?
No, I would not. I mean, from what I've seen, no.
I'm keeping it on. That's all Patreon content. It's all secret when I'm a real SJW.
I have heard you describe yourself as a social justice warrior before, but you're not what I was talking about. You know, to me, when someone's like, "I'm for social justice," it's like, okay, you mean like, you know, you want to stop the police from, you know, disproportionately, you know, arresting and harassing black people or something like that, you know, then it's like, okay, you're really that's actual social justice. Good for you. But if it's like, you know, there's too many tits in this video game, it's like, all right, well, fuck you. I don't
I think what's really unfortunate is this is something that I've noticed with a lot of political content online. It's really difficult it's easy, maybe it's not easy, but it's comparatively easy to make an argument. It's difficult to get people to interpret that argument in a way that leads them in the direction you're hoping. And I think if I had to guess, and you know this more than I do, probably what happened in your case is that there are and always have been a lot of fairly angry sexist men online. That's just, you know, that's probably been the case for forever.
I mean, you know, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, please.
No, I was just going to say, I'm not trying to let myself totally off the hook on this shit because, you know, there was a point where I realized things were going astray and I kept going down the path I was going down. You know, because I noticed that this kind of content was more and more attracting a right-wing audience and even a far right-wing audience. And, you know, at the time I was just like, that's cool. I'm breaking down these barriers and stuff. And like, oh, it's inviting a more diverse, you know, ideological group to my stuff. You know, and I didn't know that basically what was really happening was everything I'd done was being co-opted and turned into something that, you know, I can't even recognize. But, you know, I mean, there was a deal with the devil to be made. And yeah, the deal was, hey, you know, if you go down this right-wing path, if you go down this like sort of alt-right or alt-light kind of path, you know, you'll get this giant bloom of support and financial support, and we'll watch your videos and we'll hang on your every word and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, that was the deal. And all you had to do was sell out every principle you might have had prior to that. And, you know, I feel like I walked down that path and considered making that deal for a lot longer than I probably should have. And I'm obviously there are people who just outright shook the devil's hand and went right on down that path and
It
didn't.
is very lucrative. I mean, I think we've all at
So
some point
there's
seen
a
people
tremendous,
explode, yeah, with popularity.
and I don't want to name names, but I think we all know the kind of people.
Yeah, no, anyone who watches my videos knows a number of those people. There's some. This is really interesting to me. Do you know who Destiny is?
Yes.
Yeah, he said something like this really similar back in like 2016. What he would say in the past was he was like a libertarian kind of dude, and he would make arguments for how like you shouldn't care what the race of the people you see in TV, movies, video games are. We're all human beings. You should appreciate it regardless. You shouldn't be weird about it. And he made those arguments sincerely. And what he eventually realized is there were a lot of like racist or conservative people who would hear that and agree with him like, oh yeah, definitely SJWs, you don't need to care about those things, why do you care so much? But then the moment it wasn't a white person, they would freak out, and Destiny realized that people were only going along with his arguments as long as they favored them, and as soon as it had to be held to a consistent standard that didn't favor their ideological predisposition, they got really, really mad. And I think that might be the story of like,
yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
That what you said. I mean, that I've not watched a whole lot of Destiny, so I'm not super familiar with his content. I've seen him around the way a few times. But yeah, I feel like that's pretty similar in circumstance. It's like, you know, I feel like a lot of the arguments that I made, especially during the anti-SJW stuff, I was making them in good faith and sincerity, but I feel like a lot of people were just using them as a tool to, you know, achieve a more, I don't know if I want to use the word sinister, but that's the word that comes to mind.
Right, yeah. And but there was, I mean, there is legitimate core there. I've done the exact same thing. I have made arguments on stream. I'm sure most of the people watching know that ended up. I was prideful, and I made them in a context where they were very easy to misinterpret, and it ended up bolstering the positions of people who I disagree with very strongly. I completely sympathize with that, and it's really, really difficult. I think, to make these positive arguments that don't kind of go off the rails in that way, that don't end up attracting people who misuse them maliciously, because there are so many people online who are so willing to deliberately, I guess, twist the arguments of popular online figures in such a way as to benefit their ideology.
And, you know, look, another thing is, you know, you're obviously a fount of nuance, whereas, you know,
I try my best.
I think you perform admirably in that regard. But I mean, you know, my content, I've never, you know, I'm primarily considered myself to trying to be entertaining. So a lot of times, you know, nuance, I mean, I try to employ it, you know, when I can, but a lot of times nuance is the enemy of being entertaining, at least, you know, with my skill set. You know, maybe you don't have that problem as much. In fact, I know for a fact you don't.
I promise you I have that problem too.
I've found you be, you know, I've seen plenty of times where you've been nuanced and entertaining at the same time. It's maybe a little harder for me. So I think that because a lot of times I've made arguments in a bombastic and abrasive fashion, it's kind of lended itself to, you know, maybe there wasn't enough specificity. In fact, I know there wasn't. So like when it comes to some of the like anti-feminist stuff, I really wish I could go back and be more specific about who I was criticizing. But obviously I can't turn back time and do that. But you know,
yeah,
I guess I'm trying to live and learn.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. I've certainly haven't. I have significantly modified how I try to approach a lot of issues, and I'm curious because I think what's interesting to me, I think, is that a lot of the schism that is found between. Okay, wait. I'm not trying to be like prescriptive or broad here. I feel as though you and Shoe on Head have a sort of a similar position on the internet, in the sense that you're highly entertaining, left-leaning content creators who have a mixed audience and a past where they feel as though their arguments have been misinterpreted by more like conservative or bigoted people. Would you agree with that, or would that be reductive on my part?
I don't know. I you know, honestly, you know, I like Shoe. I follow her on Twitter and stuff, but I have not really watched too much of her content, so I'm not exactly sure. You know, and it's not out of I don't watch a lot of YouTube in general. It's very rare
that I time, honestly.
What's that? Yeah, I just well, apparently a lot of people, but I don't really watch a lot of YouTube or YouTubers. I've found myself watching a lot of your stuff. I watch a lot of Kyle Kalinske stuff, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't really watch too many people, so I'm not sure. A lot of times when people ask me about this person or that person, I'm just kind of in the dark.
I gotcha. What do you picture, or like what associations do you have with the word like idpol, like identity politics? What does that mean to you?
That's a complicated question. You know, um, fuck. Could you give me something a little more specific with it?
No, yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
my mind doesn't know where to go when it's that broad.
This is the issue that I have too, because there are two definitions for idpol that I hear used usually.
Okay.
There's constructive leftist intersectional identity politics, which is very proactive, very interested in like breaking down lines of oppression. And then there's this like weird, like virtue signally liberal idpol, which I think is what you were critiquing in your first video, because to some people, the ooh, cutting a man's dick off, yeah, shit is feminism. To them, this is them like striking a blow at the man in what I would consider to be an incredibly toxic way. So when you think like idpol, do you align more with the former or the latter? Do you think it's more of like a toxic repressive force or something
The,
more?
you know, I don't know that I understand the concept of intersectionality enough to critique it. I've struggled with understanding the definition of that term for a long time. I kind of, and maybe this is reductionist on my part, but I kind of start to see it as like, it's oppression Olympics again, where it's like, oh well, I'm black. Well, I'm trans. Trans beats black. Well, I'm black and trans. Well, I'm black and trans and a person of, not a person of color,
Native
but
American
uh,
ancestry.
I'm trying to fucking think of the politically correct term for midget, but I can't. So midget.
I think
Uh,
little person is
yes,
currently the.
little person. Yes, thank you. So I that's as far as I could kind of get with it. But I mean, I feel like that's probably a fairly unsophisticated understanding, but that's about as far as my my mind could really wrap around it.
Would you
Um,
mind if I picked your brain on it?
sure, go ahead, diagnose me.
Oh, well, yeah. So I'm a sociology major. This is one of the
Sure,
things. This is one of the very few things I feel as though I actually have a specific academic knowledge, as opposed to like I
gotcha.
talk to some cool people on Discord. But
Yeah,
what I was taught with intersectionality, I had this conversation with Vegan Gains. I don't think we got very far in it though. But the gist of intersectionality, as it was explained to me, is that there are some types of inequalities that don't really that can't really be adequately examined if you only look at them along the line of one axis of oppression. Earlier,
right.
for example, you were talking about how an example of real social justice was trying to prevent black men from being like disproportionately locked up,
Right. Yeah.
which undeniably happens here. And I think that's an excellent example of the importance of intersectionality, because in that moment, it's not just black people that are disproportionately locked up, though they are. And it's not just men that are disproportionately locked up, though they are. It's black men, because there's an intersection there between the racial element of their subjugation and the fact that as men they're considered to be more violent, dangerous, animalistic, and these things kind of reify each other. And intersectionality is kind of a strike back against attempts to address oppression that only end up reifying other axes of oppression. For
Right.
example, with that show, the dick cutting off, I wish I knew the name so I could say it more offhandedly, but with
I don't
with
the
that, I'm
the
sorry.
decapitation show.
Right, the decapitation show, exactly, as it was no doubt named. That I think would be a great example of what intersectionality is trying to fight, because that would be an example of like a very milquetoast sort of shallow attempt at criticizing male power, but in doing so you end up reifying a bunch of really shitty ideas about gender. The idea that like a penis is like the apex of a man's masculinity, the idea that like men should be able to just take harm on the chest because they're inherently stronger, so they shouldn't be able to complain about it, which kind of suggests women are weaker because that implies men being the sponges for pain. That would mean like women are more dainty or effeminate or can't be touched. And it ends up like worsening everything. So that's how it was described to me, basically. The intersectionality is a response to those really shitty attempts at fixing imbalance.
Right. So I mean, I guess that it's I guess in that sense it's kind of important to make those sort of distinctions. And I know this is a little bit, well, this is more than a little bit outmoded, but I mean, I really, and maybe I'm sure you'll tell me where I'm wrong on this one, because I know that you don't agree with what I'm about to say, but I really feel like the whole color blindness approach has been dismissed too readily, because I just don't see how you actually solve these problems in the long term as long as you continue to cordon people off in these different groups.
I think there are some. It would take a lot of discourse, I think, but I think there are some ways in which I agree with you. For example, I've never gotten behind the idea. I don't like the idea of like separate black graduations, for example, and in college campuses. Sometimes I feel like that creates more problems than it solves. I think so. Wait, if I could, I think that bad colorblindness, like air quotes, bad colorblindness is like black men are disproportionately arrested. People are disproportionately arrested. We need to make sure the justice system is fair to everyone.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing is it's if you're too colorblind, you're disregarding. If you don't see race, then it's pretty hard to see racism, right? Yeah. So that's kind of like the problem. But at the same time, I do feel like if you don't work towards a world where someone being black or someone being trans or someone being, whatever, if you don't work to a world where that's not even a fucking factor in your appraisal of them, then I just don't see how long term you solve those problems. So I don't know how you find a balance there. But
yeah. I think that's I completely agree. I think that's really tough. I think the best thing you could say, like broadly, is to only ascribe distinctions insofar as it's absolutely necessary to fight oppression, and in all other instances to do your best to treat everyone equally. Like I would never advocate for like treating like women or trans people like differently than men or cis people. I mean,
right.
If they ask to, like if they want you to treat them different, sure. But like as a broad group, that I feel like we kind of we're reifying the differences, and as long as there are differences we recognize, then there will be people who want to sow oppression along those differences.
That kind of reminds me. There was a lot of people in your in the chat before the show started that were kind of asking about trans rights kind of stuff. So just so it's like 100% clear, I robustly support trans rights, and there's never been any sort of reluctance on my part to do that. I don't know why this is like a meme where it's like get TJ to say trans rights. I don't know what the
origin. I have a really GSM audience. They just get really excited hearing their rights reified. I think they're so because every time I boot up stream, I talk for 4 hours about how everyone wants them dead. So I think they really like the contrast.
Well, just to please them, I'll say it a few times in a row. Trans rights, trans rights, trans rights, trans rights.
Oh, don't spoil them, please. They're brats. They're gonna be asking for it every fucking stream.
They're hungry for it. Hey, everyone should be hungry for their rights.
And trans rights too, of course. Sensible, cheap transportation across the continent.
Not to switch the topic too much, but I do think we should kind of get into this burn your bus stuff, right?
Yeah. Do you want to lay out your position?
So, look, I've been obviously realizing I had this conversation with you coming up. I feel like I've contemplated this, and I feel like I've softened on it, but I haven't changed my mind. So as far as I can tell, the top reason to support Biden in the general election is probably to not allow Trump to stack the Supreme Court with conservative justices, right?
That's probably the main one. Yeah, that alongside climate change.
Right. Well, yeah. But I mean, like ultimately, that's the big thing. We don't want a Supreme Court stacked with those right wingers, because they're going to make a lot of regressive decisions that are going to affect a lot of people. Especially obviously that would be a huge threat to Roe v. Wade and stuff like that. But here's the thing that I keep getting stuck on, and maybe you can help me with this. When I think about what the fucking progressive left really needs to signal to America that it is now ascendant and it is now, a force to be reckoned with, is it needs the presidency.
Mhm.
Because whatever the limitations might be on the actual power that bestows, which I think people underestimated how powerful the presidency really is a lot of times.
Yeah, now that executive actions have been normalized, like to the
Right.
extent that they have by Obama, I feel like the presidency is more powerful than any other, like easily more
And
powerful.
it seems to get more powerful with each passing president too, which
Mhm.
is a concerning trend, but whatever. But that all the more reason why it's so important to control that position. There's no higher position in the land. There's no more important place that we need to be visible and that we need to have our voices heard. And that was why Bernie Sanders was such an appealing, figure for us. So if we throw our support behind Biden and it's enough to push Biden to victory, which by the way, I'm pretty dubious of that prospect.
Yeah, me too.
I almost kind of feel like this argument might be a moot point because I don't think Biden is going to win either way, but whatever, we'll set that aside. If Biden is the victor, then when does the left when can we really reasonably expect to have another shot at the White House? I think that under the most optimistic fucking circumstance, you're looking at 8 years, but I think more likely you're looking at 12 plus years before we have another viable shot at getting in the White House. Whereas if Trump wins re-election, I think we have another shot in 4 years. So that's kind of what's been the sticking point for me thus far. What do you think of that?
So here's my concern. I guess there are two arguments that I want to make, and the second one can only be made as long as people accept the first one. The first argument is that if we just look at the duration of the presidency, just the 4 to 8 years, whatever. Well, it can only be 4 for Trump now because he's had a term. If we just look at the next 4 years, Biden would be a less harmful president than Trump. I think most people can agree on that because if anyone actually takes a serious look at their policies, there are so many ways in which Biden is better than Trump. It's insane.
No argument there.
Yeah. A lot of people disagree because there are a lot of people on the really far left, and to them, everything like right of Sanders just fits into this blob of like neo-fascism. And while
I feel like I fall prey to that to an extent, but I mean, if you're really holding my feet to the fire, I can admit that I think Biden would be a better president than Trump.
Yeah, okay, but this is in no way, shape, or form like an endorsement of Biden. I fucking hate the guy, and I think he's a horrible candidate.
Yes, he's horrible.
I
think he's the weakest candidate since Bob Dole against an incumbent president.
Oh yeah, he's so weak. We can only hope that people's anti-Trump fervor like compensates for that. But that's that's the first position that I need to take. The second one is like, how do we rise? The far left or just the left? I mean, honestly, like the DNCs that exist now could hardly be described as left-leaning.
Yes.
So how do we rise? And what my thought here is, there are two worlds that we can end up walking into. One in which we support Biden broadly, dejectedly, begrudgingly, and then as soon as the presidency is done, we fight like hell to get our policies pushed, local elections, down ballot voting, that sort of thing. And the second world is where we don't. We cross our arms, we say, fuck it, Biden doesn't represent our interests, we're not voting for the guy. Sorry, should have done more to cater to us. And my concern is that at the end of the day, our ability to build power comes from public support, for people's belief that we have better solutions than the centrist-leaning DNC. And I feel as though crossing our arms and trying to hold the DNC hostage or protest not voting will lead to a media narrative that will make it very easy to condemn us as the reason Trump won again. Whereas if we do begrudgingly support Biden, the media will still try, but I feel as though we'll be able to make a much stronger argument that we're ultimately working to fight against Trump and everything he represents. And that might lead to more public support down the road.
Possibly. I feel like you could also look at it from the perspective of, the left is maybe at its most energized when the opposition is in power. I mean, that does seem to kind of be the case to some extent, because it seems like a lot of times when you get a Democrat in there, even if it's a centrist corporatist Democrat, people kind of get complacent on our side of the aisle. Maybe not as far on that side as you and I are. I think you a little further than me, but that's fine. But it seems like a lot of people who are just marginally to the left or who are a little bit more in the supposed center get really fucking complacent when their guys in power. And I think you see that during the Obama administration, just total inability to hold that guy to any sort of account. And there weren't any of these. I don't feel like we made a lot of those inroads under the Obama administration.
We were asleep. We were asleep the whole time.
It was like we were walking. We were in a daze. So I mean, like, I just don't know. I feel like almost like Trump might be, better for the left to stay energized and to stay out there and to keep making its arguments. And honestly, I just feel like trying to build a strategy around what the mainstream media is going to do is just ultimately going to always backfire, because they're never going to be kind or charitable to any sort of genuine leftist cause, because they're corporatists to the core. They're owned by that.
Yeah, their material interest will always be to stomp on us. I do have a counter, if I may, to that. I agree the left was asleep back during the Obama administration. Even back after the 2008 financial crisis, Occupy Wall Street was hardly leftists. There were leftists in Occupy Wall Street, but it was not like a broad populist movement to address the excesses of capitalism. It was more of just an expression.
It was more of an emotional reaction to.
Yeah. It lacked the structure for it to be meaningfully politically effective. And what I'm curious about is it possible that now that we've gotten closer to actualizing leftist populism, we might not fall asleep again given a Biden presidency? After all, the left wasn't really active back during the Bush years either, even though we had opposition presidency in. There were plenty of, like we had, of course, like The Daily Show and Stephen Colbert. We had people who would mock.
I think the form of the left at that point was the anti-war movement.
Right. And they were largely drowned out by the media, at least immediately. But I wonder if now that we have Bernie Sanders as a reifying sort of totem to show us that A, these ideas exist, B, we can fight for them as a group, and C, we know they can get close to the seat of power, it might be possible for us to avoid falling asleep again. We might have been given that symbolism that we lacked before to keep us from falling back asleep. And the second thing I want to say, which I'm not sure, I apologize, is I agree the media is generally not going to be very charitable to us no matter what happens. I know that no matter what happens, Bernie bros are going to get blamed. If Biden wins, Bernie bros like, oh, haha, see, we didn't need socialism, idiot. And if Trump wins, like, oh, if you voted for Biden, we would have won, idiot. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, we get fucked either way.
Right, exactly.
But I don't know if us crossing our arms and protesting and not voting is going to get much material good done either.
Let me be clear on one thing. I would not advocate for us to not show up to the ballot box. I would say focus on the down ballot candidates.
Local stuff, policies.
Try to find, as much, stack that as much as you possibly can with the furthest left candidates you could possibly fucking find and vote for. And there's been I'm guilty of this as well, just focusing way too much on the presidency and not enough on all these down ballot candidates. Like, I don't even know what a fucking alderman does. I'm going to find out. So, I think that we need to focus on that. And, but so the fact that I'm saying we should go to the ballot box in the first place, I kind of feel like maybe, I guess while I'm there, I can fucking check the Biden box. So that's why I'm kind of like softened on it a little bit, because I'm already planning on going to the fucking polls anyway. So I guess, maybe I could spare a fucking vote for Biden. But at the same time, it kind of, it ends up rubbing me the wrong way in a different way, where I feel like I'm kind of validating the bad behavior of the fucking DNC. And I really am concerned that, we won't have, we know from these climate change, the science on climate change, that we have such a fucking limited time to deal with this, that it's like, I hope we could do this again in 4 years instead of having, because I don't think that Biden's going to join. He's going to sign the Paris Climate Accord, but I mean, is he really? He's not going to fucking build a new green infrastructure or something. He's not going to do anything fucking radical to actually solve those problems. He might be marginally better.
I think he has. I think again, it's whether or not like these policies are listed. I don't know if that means they're going to follow through on them. But I think he has listed a some sort of like a cut down version of the Green Deal. Like we acquiesce to the idea of what you're advocating for. Here's our pragmatic version. One of the things that gives me hope in that regard is that Biden may himself be a senile, cottering, fool, but from a purely materialist standpoint, like if we just look at this from the like capitalism trying to reinforce its own interests, there's no benefit to letting the country melt. Trump and the populist right are more interested in racism and campaign rallies than they are in making sure there's a country in 30 years. Whereas I feel like even the milquetoast corporatism of Biden is preferable in the sense that there are at the very least sane people who can look down, at the peasants who make up this country and think like, I don't care about them. But a lot of property would get damaged if we all went underwater. So maybe we should do something about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that anybody in politics looks that far ahead, but it's something where I'm going to definitely be kind of wrestling with it back and forth for a time, because I see the argument for harm reduction and stuff, but I do worry that if we don't get someone who's a little bit to the left of Biden, well, actually a lot to the left of Biden in there,
way off far left field, yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like if we don't get that soon, I feel like there's such a ticking clock going on right now. But at the same time, I mean, is it worth sacrificing the Supreme Court for that? I don't know. I mean, I guess there is the outside possibility of expanding the Supreme Court. FDR tried to do it and failed.
Like packing the court, putting like a bunch of folks in there.
Well, FDR tried to raise it up to 15 justices so that he could get more of his get a court that was more friendly to his not Green New Deal, but his new original New Deal policies.
The old New Deal, yeah,
right, the old New Deal. But he was obviously unsuccessful in that. But I mean, there's nothing in the Constitution that says there has to be 9 Supreme Court justices, and a lot of people don't realize that. So we could try to water it down that way. Probably wouldn't be a successful endeavor, because even if FDR couldn't do it, we're probably not going to get it done in these fucking super polarized times.
What my dream is, I think my ideal outcome here would be one in which Biden wins, and because of the incompetency of his administration, they're unable to meaningfully fix many of the problems in this country. Things are marginally better than they would be under Trump, because at the very least, Trump isn't sacrificing 1,000 DACA kids at the foot of the White House every day. But nonetheless, things are bad, and the left does not go to sleep. We look at the system, and through the failure of Biden and the milquetoast corporate Democrats, we're able to radicalize an entire new generation of people who thought that, hey, Bernie Sanders is cool and all, but we need to vote Biden for electability. We need to convince these people that that's not enough of an argument. And I feel like that's our best shot at doing it. If we participate, we vote for Biden, we say, hey, we fucking hate this guy, but okay, whatever, we'll cast the vote, better than Trump. And then the moment Biden starts to fuck up, we take to the streets and we get people really angry about it. That's my dream scenario. Yeah. I don't know if it'll play out that way.
I would just be so scared that we try to implement that, and once again, I'm fucking. I want to just reiterate that I'm dubious that even with our support, Biden could fucking win this. But assuming that he can, I would just be so scared that you would see the same level of complacency you saw during the Obama years. But maybe the fact that Bernie Sanders built a powerful grassroots movement that showed that you don't need special interest in super PACs to finance a fucking campaign. Maybe the fact that those people are still out there, they haven't gone anywhere. Maybe that means that, we won't fall asleep again. I just hope that, there's enough admonishing voices to keep Biden honest, and there's not this, powerful chorus of like, how dare you criticize Biden because he's a Democrat and we only criticize Republicans, which seemed to be what happened, during the Obama years.
Yeah. I hope we can, because it feels like Obama has kind of replaced Hillary as the golden boy, the golden child of. I think
honestly, I think it was reported in the Hill, which I don't know. That's not the greatest paper, but the prospect of a lot of Democrats salivating about Obama as this sort of super surrogate for Joe Biden. A lot of people think that the reason that Bernie might have left the race as early as he did instead of going the distance is because they wanted to be able to trot Obama out as a surrogate for Joe Biden, because obviously Joe Biden is terrible at speaking for himself. So basically, like, make it almost like you're voting. They're trying to make it.
They want to bring it back. They want to make it 2008 again.
Yeah, it's a natural extension of how Joe Biden has campaigned. I mean, Obama is every other word out of his mouth, so you might as well have the real deal out there, fucking pushing for you. People almost, I think the Democrats are trying to get people into the sense of like feeling like they're almost voting for Obama again.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, because the Democratic electorate are infants. They have no understanding of what's going on in this country. It's like a safety blanket for them. They just want to go back to the days when they could turn on the TV, where Obama was a competent speaker, which he undeniably is, and they didn't have to think about politics because they could trust that their omniscient daddy is smoothing over all the problems in the country without their involvement. It's never going to happen again. I'm hoping that eventually, like if Biden fucks up, because Biden becoming president isn't going to fix anything. And it's like every problem we're experiencing right now, there might be minor harm reduction in some respects, but things are going to continue getting worse. And I'm hoping that can be a wake-up call, but I honestly don't know. And as you've said, it's probably a moot point because Trump's going to fucking win anyway.
Right. I just feel like it's, I mean, like, look, I mean, when I see the line, when I saw that clip of Trump at that press conference, I don't know if you've seen it, where, he's asked about a tweet that Biden wrote, and Trump just starts saying, he didn't write that. He can't write. He doesn't even know where he is. I'm just like, fuck, Trump's going to win.
He's such an easy target. Holy shit. Listen, Biden could beat him in a push-up contest on stage, okay? That I believe in. Everything else, Trump is going to nail him to the fucking wall. He's so easy to make fun of.
Look, people think Trump is stupid, and in some ways he is. But I mean, like, when you go back and watch Trump on that Republican debate stage and just watch how he just clowns on everyone else on the fucking stage. He's a master at it. He doesn't even have to. I mean, like, and he does it in the simplest, most direct.
He's a TV personality. That was literally his job.
Yeah. So I mean, like, he's amazing at it. He obviously he doesn't resonate with everybody, but the people he does resonate with, he resonates hard. So I just feel like you're going to have this doddering fucking old man who looks perpetually confused versus this just mangler, this fucking just dynamo of fucking.
No, credit where credit is due. Trump is genuinely talented at shitting on other people. Not a great candidate, not a great characteristic for the presidency, but by God, does it treat him well at rallies and debates, at least for his audience.
And they eat it up. They love it. And, he fucking stood toe-to-toe with Hillary Clinton, who is, by the way, way smarter than Joe Biden and way more articulate than Joe Biden, just as evil as Joe Biden, but whatever. She's certainly quicker on her feet.
Oh, yeah.
And Trump fucking trounced her. And he trounced her by just looking her directly in the face and be like, yeah, you be in fucking jail, bitch.
And the crowd loses it, yeah.
Ooh, Jerry.
The first debate between Trump and Hillary Clinton back in 2016 was when I realized that Trump was going to win. I actually have a fond memory of this because I was in college at the time, and my now girlfriend, who I was just friends with at the time, I invited over to watch with me because I was really excited to watch the debate, and she accidentally like tripped me on a rock on the way over, so we had to like deal with that, and I missed the first 20 minutes. But what I watched the rest of was Hillary Clinton deftly responding to every single policy. Hillary Clinton is very, very smart. She played it out beautifully, and then Trump would just pause to the wrong, and then just like move on to the next topic. And people loved it, and I feel like this is politics forever now. Joe Biden's many, many failings don't play as well to the Democratic audience as Trump's do to his. Trump is like a rapist. Who cares? Republicans love rape. They'll vote for that shit. Absolutely. Biden is a rapist. Now we actually have a conversation about whether or not, what's her name? Tara Reid, who was the most recent accuser?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we have a sorry?
I think she actually pronounces it Tara.
Tara? Yeah, and now we have a conversation about whether or not Tara Reid makes Biden unelectable. I'm not saying, by the way, that it shouldn't. I'm just saying that Trump doesn't even get to have that conversation. Everything he does is just sort of, they let it go. It's fine. They even like it. I don't think Biden can beat Trump. I don't think it's possible. I'd be extraordinarily surprised if it happens.
If he does, it's going to be the same way that he beat Bernie Sanders, by just having the full weight of the Democratic establishment coalescing around him and being surrogates for him and pushing him at every fucking, like, I would really not be surprised if Biden, before he even gets to the general, makes some sort of announcement to the effect of, like, due to health reasons, I can't fucking continue, and here's your different, candidate.
Your vice president, Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, I mean, there's people in my audience who are hardcore believers that there is a bait and switch kind of Hillary thing going on.
That's the Vanta black pill right there. That's like the black hole pill.
I mean, if it happened, I would not be shocked. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but I'm keeping my mind open to the crazy possibility, especially in this wild and wacky year of 2020.
Oh yeah, there's a limitless capacity for suffering in our futures. Never turn down the possibility. I just want to say really quickly, I meant to say it earlier, I forgot, now I remember. I really appreciate you responsibly encouraging people to vote down ballot. One thing that really, really frustrates me, okay, I think that the Bernie or bust argument is a little bit more nuanced than I've maybe treated in the past, though I'm still fairly comfortable in my position. But one thing that really fucking gets my goat is when super angry leftists online just forget that the presidency is one of 1,000 things that you vote for when you go in November. And local elections are the bedrock of actual grassroots change when it comes to changing like how the Democratic Party is structured. So if people forgo that, I think that's unforgivable.
I was I definitely I struck that position in 2016. I kind of regret it. I don't kind of regret it. I do regret it. I was just definitely, I had more of a like, fucking the whole system is just fucking a piece of shit anyway. I mean, it is, but at the same time, I mean, if I'm going to preserve any sort of sense of, engagement in American politics, and look, I've looked into the possibility of trying to immigrate elsewhere, and it's just too hard. So I'm going to the only option I really have on the table is try to change this country. So, I do plan to vote. I don't know if I'll cast a vote for Biden or if I'll cast a protest vote for someone else, but I'm going to be there and I'm going to fucking try to support the most progressive agenda that's possibly available to me. Now I live in Louisiana, so it's really going to amount to fucking...
You've only got so much wiggle room when it comes to that.
There's only so much I can really fucking do, but we'll see.
I don't think I could ever leave this country. Even back when Trump won, I knew a lot of hippy dippy college kids who were talking about like going up to Canada or something. I guess if people want to do that, they can. I don't know. I think we live at an extraordinary point in history right now with the populist sentiment that's been disseminated. I feel like we're on the cusp of potentially some really radical change. I don't know if it's going to be good change, but I'm really happy that I get to live in a place where that's happening.
I have a certain affinity for America, but I've gotten to a point where I was like, New Zealand looks nice, So,
if Roe v. Wade gets overturned here, I wouldn't fault anybody who wants to leave, because that's some no negotiation shit right there. You either you get freedom, you get abortions, or you don't.
I am proud of the fact that even when I was initially on my YouTube channel a right-wing libertarian, I never fell for Ron Paul. So.
I fell for Ron Paul back when I was a right-wing libertarian. Shit.
I didn't. I was like, right-wing libertarian, huh? And then it's like, I want to go back to the gold standard. I'm like, has that ever been tried? And I looked it up and it had, and I was like, oh, it didn't work. That's not a good idea. And then it was like, I'm against abortion. It's like, that doesn't sound libertarian. That sounds
what? Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, huh? I thought we were about freedom over on this side. And so that's
should slavery be illegal? Let's let the states decide,
Yeah, okay. Never mind. I'm not done with this. I think Ron Paul might have actually been the beginning of the end of my right-wing libertarianism, because I saw them all embracing this guy and I was like, okay, yeah, I like him on some things. And he seems honest, at least about what his politics are. But then I'm like anti-abortion, gold standard. I mean, this dude's kind of a fucking lunatic, huh?
Well, that's why I liked him. Wait, that's exactly why I liked him too. Initially, it was the authenticity, Yeah. I think inherently, maybe this is an American thing. I don't know if every culture places weight on this, but I think there's like a tendency towards deeply respecting people who stand out against the system, in the same way that this leads me to love Bernie Sanders now, who is very authentically, anti-establishment
Right.
and everything that he's ever done, to Ron Paul, who is kind of, sort of anti, a little bit. I mean, he's still part of the Republican Party. That's not
Right.
really that
I
impressive.
mean, he look, he definitely fucking checked that authenticity, especially for a politician. I think the standards
compared to others, yeah, true.
Yeah, I mean, like he definitely seemed a little bit more like he was a real person. And I guess I kind of gravitated towards that initially, but then when I started, I mean, like it was the abortion stuff was just a fucking total deal breaker. The gold standard stuff was pretty much a total deal breaker as well. Because I mean, Churchill tried that shit after the end of World War II, and it was a fucking disaster.
I don't actually know anything about it. I don't really know. It seems
Yeah.
like libertarians have a lot of really weird. Every time they start talking about the Fed, I feel like they bring out some really strange arguments that don't actually have anything to do with making people's lives better. And it gets really, really weird. I got to research more about that. I just debated. You saw I debated Adam Kokesh. I probably should.
I did. I watched the whole thing. I was very interested because I'd actually debated him as well a few times in the past, and he's a frustrating conversation to have. Honestly,
he's sincere at least. I really do respect that.
I just want to say, I've had interpersonal sort of discussions with him. Not really discussions, but like on a person to person level, I actually really like Adam Kokesh. But talking politics with him is really like a frustrating fucking endeavor for me. It just, and the conversation that you had with him, it went exactly the same place with me. I'm just like, you're going to end up with a bunch of like corporatist
warlords, yeah,
fighting one another and just using violence to suppress the citizenry. How are you going to prevent that? And it's just like, he's got no answer. His answer is get rid of the state, and then Candyland happens, and then we all eat fucking.
Turn America into Warhammer 40K. You've got like the Amazon Tau, and then you've got like the Walmart death squads, rolling in Space Marine gear to exterminate us, the peasant villages.
Cool. Yeah, see, it is. See how much easier it is to envision a dystopia.
Exactly, it's so much easier because hey, you know what? Utopias have to have basically no problems. Dystopias can have any number of problems. That's
right.
Wide range.
Give credit to Adam. He does envision a utopia. It makes no fucking sense, but goddamn it, he envisions it. So bless him.
And I do respect that. I'm sorry, this is completely apropos of nothing. Do you up and to your left? I think it's to your left. Is that a box set of the Preacher graphic novel, or is that something else?
That is the Preacher graphic novel.
Oh, fuck yeah, okay.
That's the whole series contained in hardcover.
Oh, fuck yeah, okay, based. Sorry, just one.
And by the way, if the patriotic streak I do have, I think probably exists because of those.
Oh shit! Wait, can we talk about that?
Yeah, sure.
Oh my God, the Preacher books were so influential on me when I was younger. I wanted to name my first kid Jesse. It's gender neutral, it can go either way. Oh my God, and it's so, I love it. It's such a good graphic novel, but there are so many fucking problems that never get addressed in it, like problematic stuff, like the homophobia and the what have you. And I swear to God, I love those graphic novels, but there was like a brain rot.
I think I'm a little bit more forgiving of that stuff. I mean, and by the way, I'm bisexual, so I just doesn't really
and based
still doesn't matter to me. But and look, I believe this is why I did the whole anti-SJW thing. It's like because I have a tremendous respect for the artist and whatever they have to say, and I think anyone who expects artists to conform to social norms of any kind or expects them to be sane people who are well-adjusted is fucking not. It doesn't respect what artists are.
I want to clarify. I completely agree. It's more of a looking at my childhood and how back then I interpreted the protagonist versus how I do now. I wouldn't change a thing about Preacher, though. I think it stands on its own.
Well, look, I think that there is a sort of, look, there is an element of, and I'm going to fucking get shit for even fucking using this term without being facetious about it. There's an element of toxic masculinity to Preacher for sure. But I think the end when Jesse does finally learn to cry and make amends, I think that, well, it's not to spoil it. I guess I did, but but I think that was kind of a redemption arc and a repudiation of the way he was throughout the series. But I guess it's hard to say.
No, I think so too. Hey, listen, nobody in my audience is going to judge you for saying toxic masculinity. Right. But no, I agree. I think one of the things that really bugged me in retrospect reading it is that there were no non-silly gay characters. Every gay character is like a rapist or a joke.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing that bugs me. But again, it was written back during the 1990s.
There was some pretty interesting. I think there was a few. Look, so yeah, there was the rapist guy. The what's his name?
He had like the flat cap.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's buggering time. Yeah.
Yeah. But he was hired. He thought he didn't know he was actually raping someone. He thought he was hired for a scene.
That's true.
He was not there to. He wasn't a legitimate rapist. He was there to, do a rough scene with somebody. So
deceived into being. Yeah.
Right.
It's
that was that was a deception on someone else's part.
Yeah, well, guys, it's a weird comic. Don't guys read the comic, then you can judge. Okay, it's a weird. Right. It's good. Okay.
A lot of this stuff, if you're not familiar with the context of Preacher, sounds probably way worse than it.
Yeah, it's a really good graphic.
Bad in there too, but whatever, it's fun.
Wait, can I hit you on the toxic masculinity thing though?
Yeah, well, hold on. Let me just say one more thing about Preacher.
Yeah.
I just want to tell you. I don't really meet too many people who've read Preacher, so I do love a scene when Jesse is on a road trip across America, and he's listening to a talk radio show.
I know this fucking scene.
And there's a liberal feminist and a fucking Rush Limbaugh type conservative arguing. And she's talking about the patriarchy and all this other stuff. And he's talking about, family values and all the bullshit he talks about. And Jesse fucking pulls over because there's no cell phones, I guess, at the time. He pulls over. He gets on a payphone. He calls into the show. And he uses his power to make everyone obey him. And he's just like, he basically says, like, I want these two people to just cut the bullshit and tell us what they really want. And the feminist was like, I want dick. Give me dick. And then it's like, oh, that's interesting. What about you? And then the Rush Limbaugh character's like, I want dick too. I love that fucking scene.
Dick is the gloriously unifying, I guess, political. It's like the nexus of all political thought. Everything is just pathologized sexuality. It does ultimately come down to that.
You should never shove a dick in a fucking garbage disposal unless it's consensual.
That's true. And even if it is, you should probably double check to make sure that's really what they asked for.
You might want to make sure. Yeah.
So
back to toxic.
Dicks in mind. I'm really curious because this is a fairly modern phenomenon. Again, you've been online for a lot longer than I have. Speaking of toxic masculinity, what's your perspective on on the incel thing? The modern preponderance of deeply lonely guys who go online to form and be a part of those communities.
I think with the incels, I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy for them. I think it's really not a matter of like women reject them. I think they reject themselves and they just don't even really try. It's more convenient for them to bitch and moan because there's nothing. I don't care. There's no level of ugliness where you can't fuck somebody. There just isn't. I don't care I don't care if half your face is burned. There's some chick that's into that. So
yeah, more friction to rub the thighs against, Yeah,
I can't get laid because my weak chin. They just want chads. Like, shut up. Go get some fucking pussy. Quit being so picky.
This has always been like a really interesting subject to me because from like a sociological perspective, it's kind of worrying. We do have an increasing number of young men who are not finding relationships, not being able to make friends, not getting along with other people, not going outside, not blah, 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 killing themselves earlier, And a lot of it, I think, is this sort of reifying tendency of the internet to help people find their own worst friends, where every incel can go online and find a buddy to tell them that, oh, yeah, your cathenatal tilt pretty much discludes you from finding human love. You should kill yourself. Like, now everyone can find a buddy like that.
Yeah, a buddy. That's
friend. Big friend.
I've talked about this phenomenon before. There was this idea in the early days of the internet, like, wow, it's really going to bring us all together. Nope. Did the opposite.
Whoops.
Just cemented these really weird social stratifications. Because, now, it used to be the town crazy could, the fucking earth's flat. Everyone just be, shut up. But now they can go find the other people who think that way and form a little club. And it's like, we're right. The rest of the world's wrong.
Yeah, they get their T-shirts and like the fucking mugs and everything. Yeah, before it used to be so much harder to find other similar toxic influences. And now it is so goddamn easy.
Right. So that's kind of how I view the incel phenomenon. But I guess it is kind of worrying because it does seem like there's some sort of predisposition in that community towards acting out in violent ways or acting out in self-harming ways. I just wish, maybe we just need to fucking I don't know. Maybe we just need to get to the point where sex robots are convincing enough that that those guys can just fuck those. I
I
don't know.
think okay, listen, I am very pro sex robot caucus, okay? I'm not in any way standing against that. But I do wonder, one of the things I talk about a lot is gender abolitionism. Are you familiar with the term?
No.
My idea essentially is that since gender is a social construct, I feel as though the roles and expectations that come along with it are more harmful than they are beneficial. And an ideal society would be a genderless one. We would still have sex, of course, like, you know, you're born with this, you're born with that. But the idea of assigning like socialized characteristics to those sexual attributes would be completely gone. And
Look, I consider myself to be, you know, an individualist. I think that people should make whatever fucking choices they want, you know, within reason, obviously respecting the consent of other people. But you know, so I mean, I have no problem with that. I don't know that. I don't know that I guess I embrace a genderless society,
more of like a
but
long-term goal, not something to actively like fight for
gotcha.
right now.
Not like tomorrow. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know if social evolution leads it down that path. I think that's fine. I mean, look, if as long as there's tits and ass and dicks, we're good.
Oh,
Okay.
those ain't going nowhere. Or
Yeah,
they'll
so
all get sort of, you know,
yeah,
amalgamated into a
right. If
tentacle-like
there's just a big
appendage.
old like giant jumble of tits, ass, and dicks, I think that that's a okay place to be.
We're
So.
moving in that direction. No, okay, that's fantastic to hear. One of the things that really, I this is one of the things that I have to be careful about advocating for because it's one of those positions that I feel people can misinterpret and use them towards more like misogynistic ends. But I've
Sure.
long felt that this isn't exactly a controversial take. Sexism often hurts men too. I know you know that. And the patriarchy kind of reinforces some harmful tendencies towards men. And one of the ones that bothers me the most is that men aren't considered beautiful. There are some men who are considered beautiful, but we don't have like this broad treatment as being objects of attention and desire the way women are. And I think that imbalance hurts a lot of people because men grow up thinking they're fucking ugly. Have you ever struggled with those thoughts that like no matter how successful you are in like a romantic or sexual sense, because I definitely have, that you're still fundamentally like kind of like a grungy person and that women are like a different type of thing?
You know, I mean, I've never really thought about it, I guess, but yeah, I see your point. You know, I wonder if that is a result of society or in societal pressure, or if that's like an inherent trait. I'm not sure.
It's really, really tough, and it's highly anthropological, which is outside
I've
my
never
field of
really, you know,
understanding.
I look when it comes down, like I've taken the I forget which of the fucking tests it is where it's like it asks you between, it kind of pegs you between where you are and like essentialism versus whatever the opposite of fucking essentialism,
Constructionism.
right? Constructionism.
Mhm.
And it seems like I fell right kind of in the middle. So it seems like I think, you know, I'm not really sure. So I don't know whether that is a biological reality. I mean, in a lot of species, in fact, in most species, it's the men who do the big sexual displays. It's the male
Oh, yeah,
peacock,
we got the poofy
big,
fucking
beautiful
rainbow feathers.
women
Yeah.
and shit, you know. And so I don't know. The male birds are always the fucking brightest, you know. So they're usually it's the males of the species that have the sexual displays. So it's kind of weird that in humanity it seems like maybe it's inverted. So is that a fucking result of you know, some kind of social conditioning? I don't
It's
know.
it's a
So
weird schism because in other species, usually the animal that initiates the mating dance is the one that has the most beautiful plumage, and that's what they get judged by. But for us, men are still expected to initiate the mating procedures, but women are the ones who are assigned the characteristics that we deem attractive. So it's almost like there's a schism where we're the one who has to put in the effort, but we're the
right.
ones fighting for their
I think
perceived beauty. You
I
know?
feel like the sentiment that you're bringing up here is kind of something that feeds into that incel thing too. Like there's a sense of like this isn't really fair. Why, you know? But I don't know. Like I said, it's not something I've devoted.
No. I agree. Yeah. It's just like an interesting subject for me because I do worry. Like, right now, China is going through this really big like gender crisis because of the one-child policy that they had for such a long time. Some families
Right.
in peasant villages would drown the girl childs they'd have, so there'd be more boys than girls. And now there are a ton of boys who can't find a date. You know,
Right.
and it's a real problem over there. And I just wonder if the fact that we've given women a new thing to be, but haven't really updated our understanding of how men should be in a while. We haven't really given them a new narrative, a new story, kind of
Right.
hurts everyone because now guys feel like they're pulled between the archetypical toxic man and like this new weird like effeminate alternative that doesn't sit right with some people.
Yeah, that's why I just feel like everyone's got to find their own path to some
Yeah.
extent. I mean, um, I feel like you just have to try. It's hard when you have the background radiation of a lot of elements in society giving you different ideas of what you should be, how you should act, what kind of conduct is expected of you. I feel like it's really hard to just kind of like drown all that out and really look into the core of yourself and say, who the fuck am I really? But I think that's what people really have to try to do.
Yeah. And we need to get better, more fancy clothes made for men as well, because men's
Yeah,
clothing shopping is
absolutely.
fucking garbage.
It's pretty hideous.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like here's a sack to wrap around yourself.
Yeah, here's a fucking burlap. Here you go. We've got 2 colors of burlap sack, and here's the jeans pile. Have fun.
We could all I think we could all look to the pimp community and kind of take something from their wardrobe.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure remains my unironic fashion dream, the inspiration above all.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. Have you seen JoJo? You know what I'm referring to, right?
I have a passing familiarity. I can't really say I've taken a deep dive, but
very flamboyant, very good.
Yeah, it's good to be flamboyant. It's good to fucking express yourself through your fashion. I've never really done it much, but it's good to do.
I feel like art. I mean, it's art. When you're fashionable, that's art. You're adding to the artistic value of the world when you step outside and you're beautiful.
I'm a big fan of a lot of these like very ostentatious singers like Marilyn Manson and David Bowie and stuff. So those guys are very obviously fashion conscious in a way that I don't think I personally am. But I'm fucking 6'6", and it's really hard to even find clothes that fit.
Wait, you're 6'6"?
Yeah.
Holy shit. Okay. Jesus. Well, chat, you found the new king, I guess. My God, I had no idea.
Yeah, I'm 6'6", 330 pounds of fucking just I don't even know what. But it's hard to find clothes that fit, let alone clothes that I think are fashionable. So.
Yeah, the only store we have is Big and Tall, I think. They cater to, like, big guys.
It's fucking hideous.
Yeah. It's just, again, the aforementioned burlap sack,
It's
not
great.
Even
worse for a big dude. It really is, so.
Yeah, you've got fucking 4 inches on me. It must be worse for you. Well, I've got good news and bad news. That's every conversational topic that I had written down before speaking with you.
Sure.
And while I'm still happy to talk with you for some time, I think this has been like legitimately the best discussion that I've ever had on this channel, or at the very least, like up there.
Oh, Jesus, dude. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on. I'm not saying you go right now. I'm just saying, like, thank you. Seriously.
Wow. I mean, I don't know how to react to that. I mean, I was just going for passable, so there you go.
Well, you know what they say. Shoot for the post 20 feet away, miss, and accidentally hit the moon somehow. Escape the gravitational pull of the Earth. Yeah,
I'm very flattered by that. Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can keep talking. I'm
Yeah, of course. No, I wasn't ushing off. I just saying in case the non-prepared topics end up devolving into hideous blood sports. I wanted all of the non-animus congratulations to go around
I think
first.
you'll find that even if I disagree with someone, I'm pretty agreeable, and I try to be honest. So
I've had a difficulty with that. I think sometimes. Not honesty, but with charitability.
Hey, let's argue about freedom of speech.
Oh, you're right. All right, hit me. Do you want to hit it up first, or shall I?
So let's. I'm hoping that everyone in your crowd has seen the video where you were arguing with that gentleman of modest intellectual means.
The one where I was playing Resident Evil at first.
Yes. Yeah, and then you kind of got too mad to play anymore, I think.
Yeah.
Well, look, so I was thinking about it, and look, I consider myself to be a free speech absolutist, but I'm not unrealistic about the notion that, certain speech can be harmful. But I just wonder, and I know this is a very cliche kind of question, where do we draw the line? So let me give you an example. You said, like, well, I'm not saying every conservative should be censored. I'm just saying, these people who target people and harass people. But like, look, one of the tenets of conservatism is, universal healthcare is bad. It wouldn't work. We need this fucking private healthcare system that kills fucking 30 to 60,000 people a year. So, Should that be allowed? Should they be allowed to advocate for that position in the context that it really is a promotion of violence?
So there's a distinction that I want to make here.
Sure.
When it comes to freedom from persecution from the government, I am very, very, very strong on the First Amendment. I don't
Sure.
think I am completely fine with the First Amendment as it is now. Maybe there's some
All
incredibly conceited like
well,
nuance. Huh?
let me ask you this then. Let me just kind of test that really quick.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah,
give
please.
that a bit of a purity test. So the Supreme Court unanimously reaffirmed that hate speech is not a violation of freedom of speech. That's not a separate distinction in the Westboro Baptist Church case. I don't remember the year. It was 2013-ish, somewhere roundabouts there.
Mhm.
Do you agree with that decision?
Yeah, I think I do. Yeah, I think that hate speech is free speech. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, so we're not talking about government intervention then. We're talking about
The social the social
private
fighting against certain speech. Yeah.
Okay, so what would you think then, if that's where you are? What would you think then about the argument that, if you kick these like far right kind of extremist sort of bigoted people off of these platforms, they tend to congregate in platforms where there are no sort of other voices there, where it's like, okay, you're kicked off of Twitter, now you go to Gab, and literally everyone's fucking anti-Semitic. Doesn't that kind of just stratify them even further into their fucking hateful ideologies in a way that maybe it wouldn't as much if they were able to express themselves on a mass platform like Twitter, where at least they're exposed to other points of view?
I used to agree with your perspective on this, but it seems like deplatforming off of major platforms decreases substantially their ability to advocate and to bring in new followers. I used to think this. I used to think we need to have these people out in the open so we can fight them. Their ideas are idiotic. We need to be able to fight them. That helps us. But then over the past few years, I think we've seen that even if we do fight them, they can still make huge grounds on large social spaces. But many of the people who've been forced off them, they've been forced to go to places like Gab or Telegram or BitChute or whatever, have ended up having a substantially decreased audience and a decreased, monetary incentive to keep fighting. And I think I believe that deplatforming is usually very hurtful to the people it affects.
Right. So I guess then it comes down to how do you apply that? Like, I mean, I know you were kind of trying to get into that with the other guy, but he was a little bit disruptive to the point where I don't think you necessarily got that fully across. So, like, what would be an instance where, because obviously there's some that are going to ride the line where it's like, oh, should this person be deplatformed or not? And I know you're not talking about you personally having this power, but let's just say hypothetically you are the one.
Yeah, if I could just make like what is just,
Right. And you have to be the one that metes out the justice. What are your standards for this person should be deplatformed?
So there are two perspectives that people can take on this. One of them is a perspective which seeks to maximize the utility no matter who is in charge of making those decisions. So whether or not YouTube or Twitter or whatever has a conservative or a progressive CEO, no matter what happens, as long as these rules are upheld, we try to maintain the best outcome. And then there's the argument that I would make where power is what you can grab. They're going to abuse power they get anyway. We should do everything in our power to use that power when we have it. And I don't know which of those approaches has more utility to it in each given moment. But I think when it comes to platforms as large as YouTube or Twitter, I would try to see an implementation of a TOS where it follows similar lines as the United States system of protected classes, where it's disallowed to harass or be discriminatory against people based on characteristics intrinsic to their birth or associated with them demographically. But other things, I don't know if I would be more. I don't know if I'd be comfortable going further than that, because if I did, they could come around and bite me too.
Right.
Which I want to avoid.
I always do worry when you open the floodgates of censorship that it's like, okay, well, I'm using this reasoning in this instance, but maybe someone is going to use a twisted version of my own reasoning against me at some point in the future. Like, oh, well, this point of view has to be censored because it's harmful. Oh, well, Vosh is a communist and communism has killed,
Yeah, 100 trillion people. Yeah.
zillion people throughout history. So we have to censor Vosh because he's dangerous.
Well, let me ask you then. So let me push you on this then, because I concede that there are many ways the implementation of any type of online censorship could end up being harmful or even biting me in the ass. I completely concede that. Let's say we have YouTube, and YouTube releases its whole TOS and now gets to put down a fresh one. Do you think YouTube should be able to kick folks off for what we would now consider to be egregious abuses of the platform? Not illegal stuff, but for example, threatening to dox, or outright doxing, which is not illegal in many instances as long as you're not blackmailing people. Depending on what country you're in, or just relentlessly harassing people based on discriminatory characteristics. Like if you're a black content creator, you go up there and your comment section is just full of people who have been sent by other YouTubers who are just calling you like an uppity nigger or whatever. Do you think that should be permitted, or is there a line above that?
When it comes to the TOS, and I don't want to give a weaselly answer here, but let me just start by saying that terms of service for these platforms like YouTube are written in such a way that they can pretty much do whatever they want to anyone at any time. They're written in very vague terms. If there was an explicit TOS that laid out in very clear and in no uncertain terms, this is what's acceptable, this is what's not acceptable, then I think I wouldn't have a problem with that TOS. But when the TOS is vague, then I do have a problem with it because it just leads to a system where it's highly interpretable.
It's discretion, yeah. Like it's just whoever they want to take out at a given moment.
Right. And I understand that every system, no matter how clear it is going to have some sort of, level of interpretation like that. So, but I, make it as explicit as possible. So as far as someone being harassed, I don't think that should be allowed. Harassed on the basis of, something beyond their control anyway.
What about like Crowder, for example? Like he kept making the like what was it, gay fairy? He wanted to print out that shirt Carlos Maza as a fag. Like he had like a lot. I mean, he went in on it too, and he got demonetized. But do you think that was right?
That's a very difficult one, and I take it very seriously. I do. I'm just so reluctant to censor someone, especially someone who, look, I don't respect Steven Crowder as an artist or an entertainer, but he inarguably is those things. And I really just kind of default on the side of giving people like that a wide latitude to express themselves, even if I think that probably the results of their self-expression are harmful in some ways. Mm-hmm. So I guess but at the same time, I mean, we're talking about targeted harassment of a person. So that's a really tough one. It really is like, it almost puts my brain at an impasse.
The interesting thing to me is we can't actually make a decision on this based on how much utility we get from banning them. Because I could make the argument, and you brought this up to begin with, that if we actually wanted to prevent as much harm as possible, one of the first things we could do would be deplatforming like centrist Democrats and like longstanding Republicans, because or people who advocate for those policies. Because, like, for example, the Iraq War, a lot more harmful than anything that has come out of YouTube.
Right. And that's, of course, I mean, that's a mainstream. I mean, like, should we go kill 500,000 Iraqis or more? That's a fucking perfectly legitimate discussion in mainstream politics. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of, it's kind of hard to say, well, that should be allowed, but don't say fag.
Here's my main concern. So I acknowledge the fact that it is impossible to legislate TOS with regards to the utility of banning people, because if you do that, we open up the floodgates to everything. Well, what about banning people who advocate for nuclear power, because nuclear power, Chernobyl, like we open the floodgates to a very extreme level. But my main concern is that as someone who does generally like free speech very much, I think I come pretty positively when it comes to free speech in most instances. What
we do has to kind of, to some extent anyway.
I'm sorry?
I feel like someone who does what we do kind of has to have some deference to freedom of speech.
Yeah, and it's often said among socialists that to be a socialist is to attempt to meet the promises brought about by the Enlightenment, rather than to reject them entirely. Because I do believe in things like human egalitarianism, human rights, free speech, free education, that sort of thing. But
Right.
when it comes to this, my main concern about freedom of speech is that it is not merely the legal access to freedom of speech which determines your ability to engage in it. It's the level of incentive and disincentivization you experience. Much in the same way that it was legal for white citizens counselors and Ku Klux Klanners to show up outside of Southern polling booths back during the 1920s and 30s with big old signs saying, "You know your place." That is legal. What it does is it fundamentally stifles the ability for others, the black folk, to express their freedom of speech. And I think that you actually, on online platforms, bolster freedom of speech to an extent when you prevent levels of harassment that disincentivize or discourage minorities from being able to participate. Essentially, to avoid banning intolerance is to implicitly allow it to stymie the rights of people who are affected by it.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a very interesting perspective. And I actually, in an old video of mine, this is kind of an aside. I'll get back to it
No,
in a minute.
please.
I actually, in an old video of mine, not that old, a few years back, I took a Southern literacy test that they used to administer to black voters. That was really eye opening in terms of just how ridiculous the test was. Absolutely absurd. It was just designed to where it cannot be passed. Um, so I mean, that's that. You know, that there's an example. I don't know if that's necessarily right along the lines, but you got me thinking about it. But it is really kind of an example of like, let's censor this person because they're, a minority or whatever. So yeah, I mean, there is an ability, I think, for people with a giant bully pulpit to curtail, like, I guess that is kind of the paradox, because if you get big enough and you get powerful enough and you get influential enough, you do have the ability to shut other people up that say what you don't like. Which is, of course, when we're talking not about the legal definition of freedom of speech, but the fucking concept of freedom of speech, I can see how that can be a problem. If you try to, silence a journalist that writes an article you don't like because you have, 5 million fucking followers or something, obviously you're not respecting that journalist's freedom of speech. So I guess to some extent it kind of gets to the whole idea of, does my right to throw punches end where your face begins? I don't know. It's really
It's
fucking
really it's really difficult.
Look, I think that you're onto something with it. I definitely think that it's an idea that people should weigh out and take very seriously. I think that a lot of people who are, I would describe myself as a free speech absolutist, but I've struggled with it, on more than one occasion. And I think this is probably one of those occasions because I've never quite thought about it in the framework that you're providing for me. So I'm not sure. I'm really just not sure. I don't want to be I don't want to be reflexively just like I defend this no matter what. But I think you're onto something, and
It's an insanely difficult topic. It's sometimes the nuance feels like it's non-existent when you're talking with people who don't. When people come to it like really ideologically loaded, and it feels like opposing their sentiment makes it seem as though there's no nuance in the discussion. But I acknowledge, like, determining what should get people banned off private, but at this point effectively public platforms is incredibly difficult. I do want to say this, though. In an ideal world, because right now we're talking about this through the lens of massive global tech companies deciding what is and isn't okay on their platforms.
Yeah, and that's also an uncomfortable conversation. Which
very, very, very uncomfortable for me.
We haven't even delved into that aspect of, like, do we really want what we can say being controlled and manipulated by a select few fucking business interests, which I think we're both probably firmly against that.
Yeah, my main concern, of course, is when I talk about, like, what should be an acceptable TOS. What does it mean to get banned off Twitter or YouTube? I'm talking about from within the context of a very, very flawed dynamic. Obviously, if I could change the exterior system, make it so we had a different way of projecting our voices without, like, the implicit approval of tech CEOs, that would obviously be preferable. But I do want to clarify,
with the hand we're dealt. So
yeah, in an ideal world, whatever type of social censorship we would see, not from the state, nobody being arrested, but what would get people pushed off private platforms or get people like shouted down at public speaking events. Ideally, this would be a cultural movement we would come to make together. Like right now, in pretty much every corner of America, actually I shouldn't generalize. This probably isn't true, but in most good parts of America, if you go out there with a a loudspeaker and a soapbox and start screaming about how like you should be able to rape children, like that's just something we should be able to do. No matter how passionate the man's arguments, he's going to end up like coated in egg whites and tomatoes by the end of the day, or worse. And I think that's great. I think it's fantastic that as a society we have moved in a direction where something like that is not illegal, but so socially discouraged that we don't even tolerate it. Because I don't want to have to fear for all the fucking kids, in case somebody actually gets compelled by those arguments. That's what I would like to see. Not tech companies, not hoity-toity academic socialists making the decisions, but people collectively rejecting Nazism, racism, anti-Semitism, that kind of stuff. And that way, maybe I think we can make easier judgments about whether or not it's okay.
I worry about if you make the litmus test for it, what the more popular position is, or like, because you can, I mean, like you have to think too, like there was a point in history where, if someone's like, came out and said, I think that, gay people should have rights, they would be the ones covered in
but all social change is downwind of public movements, right? I mean, that's just something we have to fight for. There's never a guarantee that we'll end up in the right place, only that we can fight for it.
It's not only bad ideas that are roundly rejected by the public consciousness, though. There's also good ones that, that meet with a fucking strong, virulent opposition. I mean, I kind of worry about tethering it to that standard as well. I don't know that there's an ideal solution to this. I mean, I guess that's kind of a cop out to just say like maybe there's no answer, but
that's true. I mean, that is also the correct answer. I would never be arrogant enough to suggest that there's like a way to solve free speech. That's like this is probably like just a perpetual civilizational argument that we're always going to have. But I think in the meantime, we're probably fighting on the right side of it.
Yeah, I don't think there's ever going to be a 100% resolution, but I do think that, whatever sort of nuance we inject into it, I do think that broadly embracing freedom of speech as a concept is probably a good idea. But
no, I completely agree, and I reject all of the authoritarian socialists who or so-called socialists who reject freedom of speech as like a value. I've heard a few people talking about how like the Cultural Revolution is good because in actuality you don't want your museums and history ledgers to be filled with bourgeois influences. Holy shit, God help me, get me away from these people,
Yeah, I'm not too keen on most forms of authoritarianism. So,
yeah.
Although, I guess, I feel like there is probably a streak in me where I can relate to the like, oh yeah, the strong man that's going to save us, or, some sort of tinge of like conservatism. But I feel like it's outweighed pretty strongly, but it's definitely there.
It's very tempting, and everyone I think fantasizes about a world in which they somehow manage to work their way into power and then fix everything,
Right. I mean, I've definitely sat there and had the dictator fantasy before. So like, and then I'd do this and then I'd form the tribunal and, it's like, all right.
No, well, yeah. It is conceptually the fastest way to fix problems. It just doesn't tend to work out too well. But no, I think it's a sympathetic.
It's a fun fantasy though. So, whatever. But yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no. I just wanted to say I'm probably going to have to run because I have to read donos before I go. And then I have to have food and I haven't had breakfast yet. But awesome. I really enjoyed talking to you. And I hope we can do so more in the future.
Oh, yeah. Sounds great. I'd definitely love to come back on at some point. I feel like there's a lot more we could definitely discuss that might be interesting. So yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. Keep kicking ass, keep staying honest and keeping other people honest. Cause I think, that's like tremendously a valuable thing. And what I consider to be a largely disingenuous platform full of phonies. So keep doing that. Keep doing you, keep being Vosh. I'll keep watching.
And please keep being TJ Kirk. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Phenomenal conversation.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Goodbye.
Goodbye. That was legitimately one of the best conversations I have ever had on my stream. Holy shit. That was fantastic. Oh, would I want the usual or would you prefer a bowl? Oh, give me a bowl from Chipotle. Wait. Bowl and chicken for meat, please. No sour cream. Okay. All right. Okay. Sorry. Good. Oh man, that was a really really. Hold on. I'm just gonna open. It's so hot in here. Holy shit. Okay. That was such a good conversation. I know some of you donated to speak to TJ. I love you. I'm really sorry. I never promised that though. That was such an incredibly good talk. Jesus Christ. Sour cream is awesome. Yeah, well, you know, it's high calorie. I'm trying to slim up a little bit. Yeah, anyway, that was just really good. Hey, everyone who's watching right now, because I know a lot of you are going to dip as I do donos, just want to say, first of all, phenomenal conversation. Really enjoyed it. Hope I can do it again in the immediate future. By which I don't mean tomorrow, because tomorrow's my day off. But, okay. Really, really great. If you're here because you're a fan of TJ, thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. If you're here because you're a fan of me, I really hope you enjoyed the conversation. Go off, be well, do whatever you enjoy. And I'm going to... Oh, that's text from my mom. Why do people only text me when I'm streaming? I'm going to go ahead and read donos because that's the promise. That's the social contract that I fulfill with my audience. Fantastic conversation. Should I, like, release this today? Maybe I should. This feels like a really good convo. I want it to be put out there as quickly as possible. Imagine donating to a millionaire. Fuck off, Conyer. When you live here with me, their donations are going to be paying part of your rent. Oh, shit. Hundstedt. What the fuck? Alright, hold on. That's enough air. Now, I know there are some people... Sorry, Conyer. I know there are some people who wanted me to hold him a little bit more to the fire concerning some of the early SJW stuff. I've seen some Amazing Atheist vids that I disagreed with. However, I have several pointers on that. For one, as somebody who's also an internet personality, I know how frustrating it can be to constantly be held to the standard of your rhetoric, no matter how far along it was ago. Keep in mind that for me, the Thought Slime stream happened 1 year ago. About 1 year ago, and when people bring it up to me online, in person, whatever, I roll my eyes so hard that I get a fucking brain freeze, you know? So for me, I respect, you know, the fact that people's rhetoric and perspective changes, and I'm not interested in gotchas. And also, secondly, from everything that he said here, it's very clear to me that he's a fucking comrade. So I'm not gonna try and like fish for like issues. You know, he's clearly a comrade. Larry Banks with the $5. Do you think Biden will have Bernie in his cabinet, like involved in Medicare, economic, and other policies? Probably not, but wouldn't that be a dream? Ghost of FDR with $5. Can't end stream if you have new donos to read Pepe. Oh, this is from yesterday, I see. Ghost of FDR with a gifted tier 1 sub. Rise up from the shackles of white name oppression. True, and with the additional gifted tier 1 sub. You're cool. We all need a while to comprehend how we move forward. Just try to do local memes if you can... nothing builds leftism more than community building. Hug. Very true. I assume this is because of the Bernie stuff. Such as it is. Defenestrator with the $5. Sorry about my previous dono. I didn't mean to accuse you of rape apology. It's just something I see a lot in pro-Biden versus anti-Biden debates. I love you. Yeah, so the context of that donation is that I've said I don't like it when people try to use that Biden is a rapist as an argument for not voting for him, because Trump is a double rapist, and if you don't vote for Biden, you're making it more likely Trump gets in, so you're basically like letting a double rapist get in. It's just like a weird, it's a really strange argument to me, you know? If you're using it as an argument that Biden is a horrible person, then that's a-okay, but using it as an argument that you shouldn't vote for him is strange. Possibly Shadow B. Bug Girl with the gifted tier 1 sub. Whee! True. And Marielize with the $5. Hey, this is the occultist hippie that emailed you. Feel really bad. I'm sure you get a lot of flack. Stay strong, sending good vibes whether you like it or not. Oh, I just responded to your email right before starting stream. Nothing to worry about, comrade. I don't know if you're here right now, but, you know. SLG with the $5. Think a Trump supporter will make an attempt on Biden's life if he gets elected? They have already shown themselves to be unhinged lunatics. Possibly. I'm genuinely not sure. That's entirely possible. Trump does command a stochastic army of terrorists, so it's not at all impossible. Dr. Ham with the incredibly generous $20 donation. Thank you. Tossing some cash your way because you make good content and I feel stressed and angry, so I want to do something good to counteract it. Thank you. Sometimes I feel stressed and angry, and then I look at all the money that I get from the incredibly generous donations of people like you, and it really does make me feel better. Not so much because of the money itself, mind you, but more because it's incredible to me that people would deign to be so generous to a degenerate like me. You know how it is, right? Wait, I'm sorry. Oh, damn, sick. We got a sub jump, because y'all. Twist the Clown with the tier 1 sub. Hey, Vosh, love your content. I want to kiss your ear blob. Please do not. Didn't even get to talk about the ear blob question with TJ. What am I doing as an interviewer? Oh, hey, by the way, guys. Okay, guys, wait. Please help me out here, okay? I don't normally have people on who I agree with issues on, okay? I feel like I did a really, really good job managing, like, the discussion. Do you think I did a good job? I think I did a decent job. I did a pretty bad job when I talk with Your Movie Sucks. I could have done a lot more work there. So I'm really happy with how this went. I'm not good at talking to people and agreeing with them. I bring people on to destroy them. That's what I like doing. That's what makes me happy, you know? So having people on who are friendly is more tough. Radical Autism with the incredibly generous $20 is best meme. Yeah? I've actually seen this panel so many times. There's so much funny shit in old comics. I feel like this needs to be like an art wave, like an art style. Not like an art style, but like this needs to become a genre. Like the retro futuristic like shitty comic like okay, wait. I need to get to donos quickly because the way they're pouring in right now, I'm gonna have to talk quick. Nora Noodle Kitty with the $5. How would housing work in an Anson/market soak society? Would it be assigned or up to people to choose, or would there be a housing market? There would be a housing syndicate, but their job would be to like upkeep, maintain the production of new houses, and to keep like old ones in decent, empty ones in decent repair. But I don't think any anarcho society should have a housing market. Housing, like human dwelling, should be just a natural thing that you're entitled to. I don't think that people should have to pay or work for them. Thank you, man. Fidel Castro with the $2. Hello, Chige. Very true. And the Fireball with the £5. Can you ask TJ to unblock me? I got cut in the Dusty block ages ago when Dusty was being Dusty. My Twitter is @FireballTrinity. I love you, the Fireball, but I am afraid I did not get around to that with him. And given the fact that he has like over 1 million subs, I have a feeling as though being asked by the person he's talking to like specifically unblock one person would be like a kind of a weird thing. You might give him an email. True Anon talking shit about you being pro-Biden? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Who is this? Wait. Is this guy seriously saying that I can't get laid? Incredible. I'll give you 5,000 if you can get Poontang before January 1st. Do you have any idea who the fuck you're talking to? When I got off Tinder because of the fucking quarantine, Tacoma wept. Even like ignoring the fact that I have a girlfriend, even if we're just talking like randos, I'm 2 hours away right now from being inside somebody else. This is one. I have 2 skills, and it's non-monogamy and speaking publicly. Okay, do some fucking research. What the fuck does this mean? Carl Jung created magic spells you can use. Oh, but dumpy YouTubers? Who is this? I don't actually know what the True Anon pod is. Wait, are these the people who... Wait, these are the people who did the thing with Chapo. Whatever. I'm gonna... Are you guys ready for the Chapo split? It's gonna happen. I'm gonna end up being the dirt bag left. I'm gonna be the clean dirt bag left. The dust bag left, alright? I'm gonna need to split from the dirt bag left. And they're highly emotional arguments sometimes. Wait, why do I keep getting texts? Gotcha. Anyway, Kaliki with the 5 euros. Hey Vosh, finally caught one of your streams. Love your content. Also, hi TJ. Nice to see you after so long. Love from Finland. I'll pass the love around, comrade. Oh shit, you're right. I can get $5,000 from that person. I just need to take a picture of me inside like a pussy with like a newspaper from that date, today's date, being held out in front of the camera. Brett King with the $2. Hi Bausch, it's Brett King de Minot. I mean, the Stallion, how dare you have this scam individual on? Also, Paul's a secret prosadist. He's obsessed with nukes. Yeah, we didn't even get to talk about the nuke question. Fucking sucks. Do we need to just send a whole shot? Hyena, I think it's cheating when I use my girlfriend. Because, like, all I have to say then is, like, it's my girlfriend. Like, obviously we have sex. Like, isn't that cheating? I interpret it as, like, when I hear, like, getting poontang, like, I interpret it as, like, getting, like... I was about to say fresh poontang. Oh, God. Oh, no. The misogyny. It's still in me. Here, let's focus on donos, okay? Let's focus on donos. But he's saying you don't have sex in general? Yeah, okay. I mean, yeah, true. And we've got pictures. Immortan Valkyrie 90 with the $2. TJ apologized for mocking Milo Stewart's gender. I don't know what the context for that is. Swag Cage with the $5. Swakage. Much love from Weeaboo Trash. Okay, definitely Swakage then. Lex Claire with the $5. TJ's content 2013 to 2017. Trump's election / peak DPP was a gateway to the alt-right for me. Yeah, I have heard some people say that TJ's content led to the alt-right for them, but I don't know. I don't have enough context on it for me to like meaningfully question him. Hyena. Your pussy is very wet and new and fresh. Very ripe. Twist the Clown with the $5. Can you ask him his thoughts on when he went on the Joe Rogan podcast and ask him if he thought Joe was a sexy Chad IRL? I'll get around to it next time. And Nooberific with the $5. Your Ben Shapiro Political Compass takedown was fun. Can you do that for Michael Knowles and Matt Welsh's Political Compass videos? Yeah, I have them in my to debunk list. I just haven't gotten to them yet because I want to space the content out a little bit better than that. Castrix Defiance, the tier 1 sub. Hey Vosh, about time I ditched the white name again, which is pronounced Castrix. Also, can TJ please unblock me on Twitter at the Castrix I did nothing, I swear. I hope you guys aren't donating to me exclusively so you can get unblocked from Twitter. What did you guys do to get unblocked from... What did you... I'm blocked from like 2 people. Ariel Scarcella and fucking Dave Rubin. I guess I have a platform so I don't go in as hard as some other people. West with the incredibly kind tier 3 subscription. Resubbing even though you yelled at me yesterday, lol. I'm not a Bernie or Buster. Anyway, love you, buddy. Stay sane, please. We need you now right more than ever. I'm not going anywhere, comrade, okay? Bernie, Bust, Blue, or no matter who. I remain a socialist and I'm sticking with you guys, okay? I love you. Thank you. Huh? With the $5. Do you think they would blame minorities and kill them, or would it be anti-immigrant minority? This is in the context of a climate disaster. You mean like a fascist America? I don't think America is likely to commit any like ethnic genocides within its own borders anytime soon, but there are plenty of things we can do outside of that to be mean to brown people. And Rags to Radical with a gifted tier 1 sub finally pulled this stupid slut, who happened to be my brother, out of the degenerate YouTube chat. Welcome to the Syndicate, little throwback. Absolutely, that's a throwback. And yeah, thank God you're out of YouTube chat. Jesus Christ. Welcome to fucking real peopleville. Crowdsourced Politics with the $5. Id poll is just poll. True! Max Satlin with the $2. Thanks for the stream on Biden. Opinion on the Shining Path. I'm afraid I don't know what the Shining Path is, comrade, but it sounds cool. Somniostatic with the unbelievably generous tier 4 subscription. Thank you, comrade. Enjoy the yellow name. Boom shakalaka, hey boom. True. Very true, comrade. Very. I just hit my glasses on the way back there. Jesus. Thank you. The cosign of the 10 Canadian found this frankly awful Twitter drama. I saw it, so now you have to as well. Oh boy. Wait, what? Oh no. Oh no, is this this is the new guy? Okay. So, this, alright.
What's the point? I can't do anything right.
You'll do fine.
Hey pal, you just blowing from Stupid Town?
What's the point?
What? Okay. So the first, okay, so they just seem kind of like a little bit of a preachy, like, left-leaning comic creator? No, yeah, okay, I get it. Blown in from Stupid Town, though. That's a good one. That's a hard-hitting one. Schmau with the $2. TJ just woke a sleeping beat with his early Gamergate stuff. I remember watching him at like 9 years old and Hunter not much later, which was unepic. Well, now Hunter is epic, so it all comes around, doesn't it? Nooberific with the $5. If TJ is on while you're reading this Vosh, ask TJ if he'll admit Cult of Dusty was right all along and for him to unblock his followers. Man, a lot of you people got blocked in this Dusty wave, didn't you? I had no idea this happened. I'm really sorry, guys. I didn't... If I had known this had happened beforehand, I would have brought it up. Isn't Dusty a grifter? I don't know if Dusty is a grifter, but at the moment I will admit I have something of a negative opinion of Dusty, on account of Dusty having a negative opinion of me. Our father in the green with the $5. Vosh, I recommend talking to Benjamin Boyce. He personally witnessed what happened at Evergreen College, very relevant to the state of the left. Yeah, sure, it's just going to have to take a little while because I've got literally like 10 people booked, or I should say 10 people promised to be booked in the near future, and I'm going to need to deal with that. Ill Eye with a very generous 20 euros. Thank you. Irasa YouTube coming together. This is tectonic, glacial. Such an impression of time past. Amazing. Here, have some money. Thank you for the money. Truly, the significance of this event will not go unnoticed by historians. Big words. Y'all know that Peter Coffin one of Destiny? Big words! You know what I'm talking about. J-Reg's friend with the $10. Hi, say diabetic rights. Also, how do I subscribe on mobile? I have no idea. The site's a bit funky on mobile. We're currently working on an iterated version of the site that will work on mobile. Maybe even an app for the App Store. Wouldn't that be funky, huh? Destiny promised that to his audience a long time ago, but never delivered as far as I know. So maybe we can be the one to bridge the gap. 21st Century Socialist with the incredibly generous $20 donation. Lawrence O'Donnell said when he was an aide in the Senate that nobody cared about the left because they never stood their ground. Have you seen this interview? I have. I just don't know if they're correct. Okay, I'm just going to be At the moment, I am not under the impression that the Democratic Party cares about winning that much. Like, enough to capitulate to the left. I'm open to having my mind changed on this, and if that is the case, if it is the case that the DNC does genuinely care about winning, and we just need to show them that they have to take us seriously, then I might move towards more of a Bernie or bust position. But at the moment, I do not think they care. I don't think they care. I think the Democratic Party, not necessarily the individual politicians, loves not being in charge because then they're not to blame. David767 with the $2. Vosh, you should really take a look at reactionary Dr. Steve Turley. He has like 250,000 subs and is alt-light. Also, TJ wins the long hair coming back. Afraid I can't answer that one for you. I haven't heard of this Dr. Turley, but I can give it a look. Send me an email. Asimit93 with a tier 2 sub. Back during Obama's presidency, I was still tuned into the reality show side of politics. Now I'll never fall asleep again. I do hope that something has changed in the fabric of this country's electorate to keep us from falling asleep again under a Biden presidency, but I don't really know. Just the $5. TJ unfortunately made me a reactionary, and Sean's video on him turned me back and away from TJ. I'm pleasantly surprised to see these views now. I have a feeling that TJ isn't a grifter. Like, I feel very strongly that he's not. I have a feeling that TJ has largely always believed in fundamentally decent things, and he just didn't have as good of an understanding on how his rhetoric would curtail his audience in the future. Or like how it would end up. Because there's a big difference between having a certain set of ideas and building a coalition and then leading other people to those ideas. That's very, very hard to do. I'm good at it because I came in here specifically promoting a socialist progressive agenda directly. I came in here with that exact intent. I had no other aspirations besides that one thing. So, in that specific sense, I feel like I was insulated because I came in with a very deliberate intent, but that's very specific to me. Most YouTubers, even a lot of politically aligned YouTubers, aren't like that. In my humble opinion. But TJ is obviously a very, very, very smart guy, and he owned up to that he could have done a better job initially understanding how his content was affecting his audience, and I think that's incredibly respectable. Somniostatic with the $5. TJ, I was with you back in Atheism 1.0. Love your shit, man. Lefties, don't give up, motherfucker. Now is not the time to take shit from the man. Broad, but nonetheless true, comrade. 100% true. And Sake with the $5. I'm with TJ on this one. I think Biden will lose, and we're in for the fight of our lives versus fascism. Well, I do think Biden will lose, at which point all of this becomes moot. But, you know, gotta hope for the edge case. Hammer time with the $2. When do the Biden emotes drop? Need to get my malarkey on. We'll have Biden emotes added soon, so we can all ride with Biden. Okay? Maybe like a little horsey or something, so we can all be riding with Biden. I don't know. We'll find a way. Mode Sir with the $5. Few people have been more influential in my life than TJ. Cool to see he's actually way smarter than I've given him credit for since becoming a leftist. I didn't realize he was a full-on socialist. That's pretty fucking based. Really happy to hear that. Nolan Stauffer with the $2. What is the name of H.P. Lovecraft's cat? I'm pretty sure it's the N-word. If I recall correctly. And Sake Tanuki with the unbelievably generous $25 donation. Thank you so goddamn much. I'd rather one stoner vote to legalize weed and nothing else on the ballot than not vote at all. Every single vote matters unless running unopposed. 100%, yeah. Even if you don't give a fuck about who wins the presidency, everyone needs to vote down ballot. That's very important. I'm very happy that TJ pointed to that out himself. Virtuoso, the $2. Structural violence is overtly present, not hidden. It really depends on your perspective. For a lot of people, the disproportionate sentencing rates in our criminal justice system is incredibly ephemeral and difficult to wrap your head around. I would consider that to be fairly hidden. Hidden doesn't mean that it can't be detected. Hidden just means it's really hard to detect it, you know? I don't know. Oh, by the way, is Shu on Head still here? I didn't want to break with the convo initially, but hey, Shu, you're cool. Like seeing you around. Comrade Crow Podkindle with a tier 1 sub, re-upping for dicks and based honest daddy amazing atheist. True. Horace me with the $2. The reason libertarians love the gold standard is because strong currency benefits the finance capital and fucking kills the workers. I think it's really complicated, but I'm going to admit I don't know very much about the arguments for or against fiat versus like gold standard currency. Excuse me. David767 with the $2. Is Destiny still part of the left pipeline? I was watching his recent video on how we should get over slavery, and the comment section was flooded with alt-righters. Destiny is useful in some specific respects still, probably at critiquing alt-righters, but I don't know how good of a job he's going to be being a part of the left pipeline if he keeps shit-talking leftists every chance he gets. Does he really have that many alt-righters in that recent video? What pisses me off is that I actually streamed me responding to that video earlier than him, but his editor posted it first. Sorry, I don't have a fucking editor. I do all my work myself. Is it time to get over slavery? Destiny reacts. I don't think there are going to be a bunch of alt-righters in the comments section. Oddly, there are more white nationalists in this comment section than in the debates against white nationalists. Lamau. I'm okay with having a black kid as long as he's not an Ooga Booga. Nice. I don't know. Maybe it got brigaded or something. I have no fucking idea. Destiny doesn't really have like an alt-right community, you know? David Elam 34 with the $5. So I understand you're not a fan of Israel, but what do you think of Hamas and Hezbollah? Okay, some people have critiqued me for speaking flippantly on this in the past, okay? I believe, generally speaking, that in instances of oppression, the most blame should be assigned to people with the power to end that situation. Are Hamas good? No. Hamas is bad. But the existence of Hamas feels like a pretty natural outcome of Israel's prolonged systemic oppression and genocide of Palestinian people. When you push a community to the brink like that, they're going to turn towards more and more radical defenses. And we know this because here in America, we glorify the idea of being invaded by China, so we form like a homesteading terrorist cell designed to like kill Chinese people or something. We fucking American patriots jerk off about that shit all the time. They're, oh yeah, if only we could be invaded by Russia, China, North Korea, and everyone else all at the same time in the European Union, and then I would form the Red Dawn American coalition, and we would scalp Chinese children in their colonies across the West Coast. Like, yeah, okay, so like we know this. Is Hamas like morally good? Not even fucking close. Hamas does a lot of really terrible things. But as a material antagonist to Israel, is Hamas more responsible for its own existence than Israel? For that I say no. Israel is the antagonist here. Israel is the instigator. There. That's the most clarified take that I can throw out. Comrade Courtney with the tier 1 sub. It's cool watching you two speak to each other since TJ's content introduced me to atheism years ago and you introduced me to socialism, Peppa Hug. Yeah, it's funny to remember that the skeptic community used to actually be about religious skepticism. Isn't that wild? Biscuit Blade with the $5. Finally catching you live, talking to TJ Kirk of all people. My first YouTube subscription. Dreams do come true. Isn't it wild how the ebb and flow of time moves us? HCYN_ with the incredibly generous $20. Thank you, comrade. That was based. You're based. Thank you. I really do appreciate it. And I'm glad I can provide that entertainment. Jack with the $5. You've officially lost your I don't like circle jerks card, amazing convo, comrade. I was sweating that. I was nervous that entire conversation because I don't like conversations with people I'm not arguing with. I don't know how to conduct myself in amicable situations. So, I'm happy I did decently, but it is so much more stressful talking to a friendly person than it is to like outright argue with a Nazi or something. Italia Reigns the $5. Really cool. We got to see Vosh bring his twin brother on. Hopefully we get to see more of this. True. And Zalazar with the $5 for the 40K reference. What army do you play? Do you have them painted in a canon color scheme, or do you have your own? I just recently got back into painting 40K characters, and I only have some Skitari Deuterinos. I just have some, here we go. All right, come on. Nope. Now, for a little boyo an inch tall, I'm pretty goddamn proud of him. Here, can we get even? Oh, yeah, there we go. No autofocus, but is that good? Yeah, there we go. That's decent. That's the little captain. All right, back over here you go. Whoa, with the $5. Yes, I feel like as a trans mask person, that's why I had doubts about transitioning, because it might make me less attractive / beautiful. Yeah, it really fucking sucks. I think that men should be held to the exact same, not standard of beauty, but the exact same capacity for beauty that women have. I don't think that everyone should feel as though they need to get plastic surgery and makeup to go outside. That's kind of fucked up. But I do think it's, like, there's so many, like, we have, like, the cute girl, like, everyone, like, oh, cute girl just woke up, hair shaggy, she's, like, skinny, pale-skinned, and has decent, like, face symmetry. Everyone will, like, drool over them, you know? But if you take a guy who is fundamentally, like, the same proportions and the same, like, body, people, it would just be like, oh, like, schlubby dude rolls out of bed, you know? That's just kind of weird to me. I feel like we should probably promote male beauty as well, and mask beauty. Mike Roach with the $5. What's your opinion on the sex robot Roxy True Companion, which has a rape setting, resisting sexual advances? Isn't that breeding rape culture? Love you. I don't know exactly what you're talking about, but as a very general statement here, while I do believe that it can be pretty fucked up that some pieces of media reinforce like rape culture, I ultimately think that as pieces of art, like they have a legal right to produce them. If you want to protest against that, I think that's equally valid, and without knowing the details, I can't say whether or not I would, but I think that like fundamentally, it's like I don't think there should be like any like legal policies. Vosh says sex robots are art. Goddamn right I do. Clarinet guy with the $5. You should go on TJ's next Dank Dungeons and Drunken Dragons. That would be fucking hilarious. Yeah, maybe I can like voice act an NPC or something. Yogs the Thought with the $5. So happy you and TJ got to talk. I'd love to have you talk again and get you to bread pill him on socialism. Also was muted in the GG chat and I don't know why. Probably because you just spammed something, But I think he is socialist, isn't he? I mean, he was pretty darn socialist. Wait, hold on. Hyena says, Vosh, saying skinny and symmetrical face features implies societally attractive as a base. If you're going to make a statement like that mean anything, you can't make a person inherently attractive, IMO, because the point is to avoid beauty standards. True, that's true. I'm not so much talking about avoiding beauty standards altogether, though, as I am bringing like masculinity up to par with femininity insofar as it's capable of having beauty standards. Because most men are just thought of as like ugly apes. Like usually usually women are just like, oh, he's like funny, It's kind of fucked up. But true, ultimately the goal would be to like flatten beauty standards quite a bit. There are always going to be beauty standards, though. Like, that's just like a cultural ebb and flow. But right now, they're pretty toxic. Flatten the curve, baby. DeGero with the unbelievably generous $50 donation. Thank you. TJ was the first Serious Atheist YouTube channel I watched, and he sent me on the way to Secular Talk, then Destiny, and then later you, so this stream was awesome. Fuck yeah, comrade. That's fucking radical. I'm really, really happy to hear that. Thank you so much for your incredible generosity. I really, really, really fucking appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully we're able to have more positive conversations in the future. Yeah, one of my main issues is that, like, we're accepting men can be more beautiful now, but, like, right now, beautiful men are feminine men. There's, like, some people who consider, like, masculinity as, like, an apex of attractiveness, but those are usually people who are specifically attracted to that type of person, whereas even people who aren't attracted to women will point to attractive women and say they're beautiful. There's a bit of a difference there. Like, in order to be into, like, masculine guys, like, you have to be sexually attracted to them, whereas anyone can agree that, like, a hot girl is hot, I don't know. Okay, and it's a very complicated subject. I'm just rambling. Crowdsourced politics of the $5. The people who say they can't vote Biden care more about their personal integrity than the consequences of their actions. I would say a lot of them do. It seems to me like TJ Kirk had a very principled and respectable position on the issue, which means that even if I do disagree with him on the Bernie or bust position, I'm infinitely more charitable towards his interpretation of the issue than I would be many of the people who have just been shitting up my Twitter timeline. Capitalism SX, the $5. What's the difference between Greek life and leftist life? Only one is parties people care about. Seriously though, DACA, the courts, the EPA, vote Biden. No, I agree. Nice jab, comrade. Araxio with the incredibly generous Tier 3 subscription. Thank you. Thanks Vosh, thanks TJ, thanks chat for the great convo. Needed a good one after my best friend's family member was taken by corona. Life is fragile, stay safe. Holy shit, I'm really sorry to hear that, comrade. I can't promise that you won't lose everyone else that you know to coronavirus, but I promise you I'll do my best to stay alive myself. Really sorry. Thank you so much for the generosity. I really do appreciate it. Wumpy jumps the tier 1 sub. Are you going to get into detail on the Biden rape allegations? I don't think you ever did a video on it, Peppo think. Guys, do you want to know? Okay, are you all ready to clip me? I just don't care. Rape is a very emotionally charged, like, subject. Like, rape is, like, super easy to rally, like, vitriol around. But for one, Joe Biden has already committed what I would consider to be a mega rape by voting for the Iraq War. So I don't care. It'd be like if I learned, like, Adolf Hitler, like, also, like, kicked a, like, baby seal one time while visiting an aquarium, Like, to me, like, it doesn't, like, okay. Like, I'm already set, you know what I mean? I already think that Biden is a horrible fucking human being. The only reason that the rape allegation would have been relevant to me would have been if there was still a primary going on. But there's not. Biden is won. And meaning that his only opponent is Trump, who is a double rapist. So, is Tara Reid correct? I don't know. I haven't really looked into the allegations that hard. Does it matter at this point? Well, I'm being a little bit facetious here. It does matter, because if Biden wins, the moment he's in office, we call him a rapist every hour of every day for the rest of his life. And if he doesn't win, we get to do that anyway without the fear that it's going to end up hurting his electoral chances. So, in short, I think that it matters for Biden, and it matters in the long run, but in the immediate moment right now, it does not matter to me. That's the best I can do to explain. L Phones with the incredibly generous $15. Thank you. I'm a sappy fuck, but I got genuinely moved to tears by this. TJ was such a huge part of my early teens. This felt like a big bearded man synthesis. So happy. Yeah, I didn't have the same early experiences with TJ that a lot of other people on YouTube did. I guess I ran in different circles. But this was one of the most fulfilling conversations I've yet had on the channel, and it was just a tremendous pleasure to be able to have it. That's interesting. I'm taking a look at all of the donations I've received, and nowhere can I find that $1,000 or 1,000 kroner donation that took place a little while ago. So I'm going to go right now and find it from YouTube, because it seems unacceptable to me that such a large donation would be missed. Yeah, here we go. Tom Olav Hundstad with the unbelievably generous 1,000 Norwegian kroner, or about $100, which is really fucking generous. Thank you so goddamn much. They say, thanks for the great chat. Wondering if you watch Potholer54. I consider him a great YouTuber who deals with misinformation about science, like climate change and stuff. I don't think I do, but I do know that name, Potholer54.
Hello.
Yes, I've heard about Potholer54, but I'm afraid that I haven't actually checked out any of their content. I'll take your recommendation in stride and maybe give a look myself. Maybe see if there's any based in epic stuff in there. I do like stuff that is based in epic, you know? Thank you, comrade. Thank you so much for the incredible generosity. I really appreciate it. Chipotle just got here. Don't worry, I'm on my way. Sake Tanuki with a very, very generous $20. I reserve the right to do the biggest I told you so and dance around if Biden wins. The Dems blame us, try to kick us out, and doesn't change at all. Wait, but I believe that's going to happen, Sake. I don't believe that's not going to happen. The Dems are going to try and blame us even if Biden does win, but I think we're doing a lot to avoid that narrative. I think they would blame us more if he lost, you know? I agree. Listen, the only way forward is through suffering, okay? That's all I'm saying. But you can if you want. Andelko Kozevic with the 2 BAMs. Have some Bosnian marks, comrade? So that's what they are. Thank you for clarifying. I appreciate it. Far Eastern Myth with the incredibly generous Tier 4 subscription. I've been here 5 months, but I still don't know how emotes work beyond making text green. Oh, all you have to do... Thank you, comrade. Thank you so much for the yellow name. All you have to do is just type out a text code if you want to do an emote, right? That's all there is to it. So if I want to type out Monka Giga, then I type Monka Giga, you know? Emotes are fun. I'm a fucking shitter, dude. When I go into Destiny's chat, I just spam emotes in response to stuff that's happening. I'm like a little fucking sheep. I've got like cum brain. I can't think anymore. It's fun. Emotes are fun. Emotes are fun. Courtney with the $5 left your stream yesterday. Found out all my IRL friends are Bernie busters and basic libs. At least I have you, weed, and 9 more Dragon Quest games. Ugh. Hey, I'm here for you, comrade. Okay? It's hard out there, but especially to be a principled leftist who doesn't kowtow to the worst instincts of populist rhetoric. But we're gonna make it through this. All right? We're gonna do our best. Thank you. I'm sorry, I just looked in YouTube chat, and there's somebody in there called Nigel Farage, and they said, at Vosh, Boris would own you in a debate. Hey, tell you what, the real Nigel Farage, if you can get Boris Johnson on stream, we'll see, okay? Please, God, hook me up with a debate with the fucking Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, okay? Bring him in. We'll see, okay? I'll take it. Maybe he will beat me, all right? But we won't be able to find out until you bring him in. Dredge with the $2. Heads up, horsecock. I'm not seeing you live in my subs list again. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of notifications like that. Seems like YouTube's been fucking up a lot lately. The last video that I posted too, the one where I debated Adam Kokesh, also didn't load for a lot of people. Really sucks. Gayfesh with the $5. Stream yesterday. I'll lay off Bernie or bust for a few days to get it out of your system. Chat exists. Vosh, you fucking degenerates, you pieces of shit. What can I say? You're all my children. You have a right to... You get me angrier than anything else. You know how it be. Political Atheist 69 with a very kind $10. You ignored both my donos on yesterday's stream, but here's some more money anyway for continuing to push amazing content while I sit in self-isolation. Thank you. I don't think I ignored your donos. If I didn't see your donos... If I didn't respond to your donos, that means they fell through the API, and that they didn't show up to me, which happens sometimes, especially when people donate really, really quickly, as they did during yesterday's stream and also during today's stream. So if you ever send a dono to me and it doesn't end up getting read and that upsets you, you're always free to email me and I'll refund it. Always happy to refund it. Well, I wouldn't say I'm happy, but it doesn't bother me. Like, I think that's your right. I promise to read them. If I don't read them, there you go. Marcus Seren with 3 consecutive questions, each of which they paid for with 25 kronar. Why do people call BreadTube grifters? A lot of different reasons. Usually the accusation that BreadTube is full of grifters comes from very far left people who just like antagonizing anyone who does any meaningful change because it's not pure enough for them. Why doesn't Dusty like you? Dusty doesn't like me because following the gigantic Thought Slime stream that I did, along with some other streams, he felt as though I was problematic and did a hashtag canceled but not canceled stream on me. Why do you not like Harry Potter? Because Harry Potter is a poorly written wish fulfillment fantasy made by the blandest neoliberal imagination possible. Because it's full of character inconsistencies, its main character has no fucking personality, and there's nothing you can ideologically derive from the story, either as a mode of personal growth or as like a broader prescriptive political judgment that's anything more substantial than stand by your friends, good things are good, bad things are bad, which is fucking inane. I think it's a bad book series that captured people's imaginations in large part due to the writer's ability to build evocative world, and not so much because she's actually a good good writer. Audi Bridge with a £5. Just found your channel a few days ago, and now you do a stream with one of my favorite YouTubers? Spooky. I did it for you specifically, comrade. Greek Anarchist, the $2. Holy shit, TJ used to be my favorite YouTuber, and now you've taken that place. The conversation was so beautiful, I legitimately got tears of joy. Simply amazing. I'm really glad to hear so many people were so moved by it. I wasn't trying to... I just thought it could be a good conversation. I'm really glad that TJ reached out to me, I guess. I didn't reach out to him. He actually reached out to me, which was pretty goddamn crazy considering, you know, his size. I'm glad that happened. I don't know. I don't know. Ramburger's the oh wait, I just did that one. 63 Limar with the 100 rubles or rupees possibly. Thank you. You sparked some have a heavy doubts in capitalism because of you. You've sparked some doubts in capitalism because of you, but still a long road. Hello from Russian oligarchic poo-poo hole, comrade. Truly a confusing collection of words you've strung together for my amusement, but thank you so fucking much, comrade. I really appreciate it. Somniostatic with the $5. Bleach is based... I never got into Bleach. And Sake Tanuki with the $10. Thank you. As the interwebs moves towards being a utility, do you think hate speech laws will trend away from platform TOS and towards constitutional definitions? I think in the long run that might have to be something we do. I don't think there's any easy answer when it comes to freedom of speech stuff. I don't think there's any easy answer. I don't think there's ever going to be a solution that will be like effective enough, you know? It's like a perpetual fight, I think. Somniostatic with the $5. By the laws of large numbers, we are all going to personally know someone that will die from COVID-19. It's really fucked up. Hey, that depends on whether or not you know people. I have a long-standing personal policy of making as few friends as possible, okay? I'm gonna be all right. My parents can work from home. Jordan Contrell with the incredibly generous $15. Thank you. Hey, Voosh, just wanted to say you've improved my rhetoric and have really set me on the path to push toward syndicalism. I was able to get a boomer at work to support unions and denounce Reagan. Hey, that's fucking radical, comrade. Any psychic blow dealt against Reagan's ghost is a step forward for the human race. Thank you. King B with the $5. Essential workers unite. Join your union. Form a union. We deserve a fair wage. Support your lefty candidates. True. And Zalazar with the $5. Cool Skitari scheme you had. Any chance of getting a painting stream? I could possibly do a painting stream, but I know I would get like 100 viewers or something, and I'm such an attention whore. I don't feel like doing content that most people don't enjoy, you know? You know what I'm talking about. Maybe I'll do it sometime. Maybe it could be a Patreon thing, I don't know. Frosty T.O. with the incredibly generous $20. Thank you. People saying they won't vote for Biden because they can't vote for a rapist need to watch the new Innuendo Studios video. They're thinking like right-wingers. Well, yeah, they're thinking like essentialists, ultimately. They're thinking like deontologists. And as we all know, all deontologists are Hitler. What are you going to do, Rem the Bath Boy? Sucks. Snared Insomniac with the $5. Punish me, Daddy Vosh. But in all honesty, great debate with TJ. Love when you're able to have wholesome conversations with honest people. I'd hardly call it a debate, but yeah, I felt like that was a top form conversation that everyone benefited from a lot, and I hope I can have more in the near future. Meggy Demon with the $3. Can't really give much right now, but have some monies, bro. I want Angry Vosh 24/7. It's the only thing to make me cool. Well, if you want Angry Vosh, don't bring TJ on again, because he is very difficult to be angry with. He's quite a reasonable guy. Rusty Dusty Fox, the $5. Hey Vosh, been watching you since last May. How do you feel about parties like the PSL in local elections and as a party? Love your content. I'm afraid I don't know anything about the PSL, comrade, but as a general rule, I'm totally okay with third parties in local elections. Local elections tend to be a lot more easily swung through local advocacy, and that sort of stuff can snowball into much larger, into much better consequences down the road. I can give it a look, though. Dagon Gallant with the incredibly kind 15 Canadian. You made me coom maple syrup. Greetings from Lake Canada 07. Get fucking get these Canadians out of here. Get them out of my sight. And Rusty Dusty Fox at long last with the incredibly kind $10. Also forgot to ask, but how do you feel about people like Deadwing Dork / Cecile McFly? They seem to run with the Medicare / internet drama crowd, but seem more redeemable to me at least. I love you, comrade, but I'm afraid I don't know who either of those people are. I just never ran in that circle of the internet. I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and say that if they run with Medicare, they're probably not that decent of folk, but I could be entirely wrong. One way or another, comrade, I've got good news and bad news. The good news is someone's about to get Chipotle, and the bad news, it's not you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know normally I stream for longer, but again, this is my day off. This is the day I'm supposed to have off. So I'm going to get back to that. Love you all. Phenomenal conversation. I'm going to try and post this conversation tonight. I'll get it edited as quickly as I can. Thank you again. And yeah, be well.